April 4th, 2024 meeting of the Committee Board 12 Health and Environment Committee. My name is Steve Simon, and I happen to be the chair of this committee. I'm joined by many of my esteemed committee members and a few of those who are not so esteemed, but we'll leave that up to you. The assistant chair of my committee, O.C. Kamina, also joined by Heidi Guzman, and Carmen Parino, Elvin Adamus, Jacob Banis, and Jody Herson. They're all very esteemed. Ignore what that guy said earlier. So we're going to get started soon. We have a pretty full agenda. If you already saw the agenda, please ignore it because we're going to mix it up a bit. We have to accommodate a couple of people, and principally our borough liaison from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, who has to go off and do a school visit of some sort. But before we get to her, of course, I have to give my report, the latest COVID-19 statistics, which I gleaned from the reputable Department of Health and Mental Hygiene website just about an hour ago. And so what it shows is that the hospitalization rates for COVID-19 in our 4 zip codes, in 3 of them, they are fairly high in comparison to the other zip codes around the city, but the rates have certainly been higher in the past. So coming in at number 47 among the 177 zip codes in New York City is zip code 33 with a hospitalization rate of 12 people per 100,000 during the previous 28-day period. Then zip code 40 is ranked at number 53 with a rate of 11.4. Zip code 32 is a little bit behind at ranked at number 55 with a rate of 11.1. And zip code 34, OC, you'll be happy to hear about this, has a de minimis rate, can't even be measured, somewhere below 0, and it ranks at number 122. So since we last met a month ago on March the 7th, there have been 128 additional cases of COVID in all 4 zip codes, bringing the total since the beginning of the pandemic to 72,314. And in the last month, we've experienced 2 more deaths in zip code 32, actually. So the total number of deaths now in the Washington State Inwood during this pandemic, 1,034. So I enter this once again as evidence that while people are saying the pandemic is over, it certainly isn't over for the people who are continuing to get sick and for those who are still dying from the pandemic. So with that news, I turn it over to our borough liaison from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, the one, the only, Pauline Ferranti.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for accommodating my schedule. I apologize that I have to leave early tonight. I'm going to share my screen so we can talk about the influenza data. And you can see on your screen that the highlights for the week ending March 23rd, 2024, we see a decrease from the previous week of 13% for influenza. Of the specimens collected, 49% were positive for influenza A and 50 were positive for influenza B. And then we had some specimens come in for RSV, and it showed about a 2% decrease from the previous week. So we are seeing a decrease, which is great. And again, we have data starting from the 2019 to 2020 season all the way up to this current season. So I do encourage everyone to utilize our weekly surveillance for your edification, or if you're interested in just knowing what's happening throughout the city. So again, we do encourage everyone to continue staying home if you're not feeling well. And also, all the same guidelines that we had shared previously during the height of COVID, just to encourage everyone to continue wearing face coverings if you're in crowded areas, and to stay home if you're not feeling well, and to get tested, because the faster you get treated, the faster you hopefully overcome the disease and you won't need to be hospitalized. Wanted to share quickly that...
I'm sorry, but before we move on,
have,
Pauline. So this report on the flu
oh,
is
sorry.
this report on the
Yes.
flu is I guess more upbeat than what we had a month ago.
Yeah.
So it's
Yes, definitely.
the
You
numbers
can
are
see the
going.
trend coming
Yeah, the
down. Yeah.
trends are going significantly down. Whereas about
Mhm.
a month ago, it seemed as though they were at a fairly high plateau compared to a year ago. So they're still above where we were a year ago, but
That's correct.
they are declining.
That's correct.
Okay, and
Yes, and I did show everyone how to get there, but if
yeah,
you are interested, what you can do is
right,
just go into the search bar and type in flu, and
right,
it'll bring you to our seasonal flu page. You click on that, and
right.
then right down here, it'll say weekly influenza surveillance summary, and you can click on that. And I think they have information for every single week this past for the 2023 to 2024 sixth season. Excuse me. Speaking faster than my brain can work, or the other way around. I don't know. Anyway, so
So
if
are these stats broken down by zip code the way the stats are for COVID-19?
I don't believe so.
All right.
But we can maybe see want to explore the no, this would not be it. Let me see if we have in our data. There's like another data sort of area where we can look up all sorts of stuff. I forget what it's called, but
All right, so we'll give you an extension,
yes.
and if you could get back to me the next few days with any specific information for Washington Heights and Inwood, I'll be able to send it around to the committee members.
Okay, sure. I will get on that very quickly. I know we do have a really robust data portal. So I will definitely take a look around and make sure I get that
Yeah.
information to you. But
Okay.
just really quickly, last month we noticed that STIs were on the rise in the city. So here is the press release that we sent out on February 14th, the day before Valentine's Day, very timely. But we wanted to encourage and highlight everyone to utilize our sexual health clinics. So, we wanted everyone to know that we do have some expanded services, but also, we are experiencing longer wait times because we did have to close some clinics. And also, the need for medical abortion has also been very important for us to provide to New Yorkers and also some folks from out of state who traveled to New York to get the medical abortion pill. So it's really important for us to share this information so that people can utilize these services. And so we just want to highlight all of our sexual health clinics. Unfortunately, the one closest to you has recently closed. So the next closest one to you would be Central Harlem. But we did also notice that a lot of people prefer traveling out of their neighborhood to visit our sexual health clinics for various reasons. So we just wanted to make sure people knew exactly where our health clinics were. And we do have a couple of express clinics as well where you can get same day information for certain tests. So we wanted to highlight that as
Why the
well.
clinic was closed?
I'm not 100% sure, OC. I will find out. But the Riverside Sexual Health Clinic was closed. And I don't know whether it was for renovation purposes or for anything else. So I will definitely find out for you.
Thank you.
And then also speaking of health department buildings, the building on 600 West 168th Street, I did reach out to DDC, who's overseeing the restoration project, the facade restoration, to get a more detailed timeline. I have not heard back from them. So I will escalate this request to get a timeline. Currently, what I'm told is that they are in the design phase of the project, which I believe started last year. I don't know when, maybe late last year, 2023. And it should be ongoing through maybe the first half of this year. But again, I don't want to give you any false information. So I will definitely confirm that. I reached out to the director of their external affairs team. And so hopefully I will hear back from them soon. And I will be able to give you a more clear time frame as to when the design will be completed and then when construction will begin, and hopefully a date for completion of the project. And those are my updates for tonight.
All right, very good. I think if I remember correctly, I think the chair of this committee might have asked you for that at the last update.
Yes.
Yes. But,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I tried to get more detailed information, so
okay.
I apologize.
Okay, well, we're going to give you an extension on that one as well, on that assignment as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, and but also my memory is that we also had, I think, a sexual health clinic in that building some years ago at 168th Street. Which
Yeah,
also,
a lot of the building space has been turned over for like use for another, I believe it's Mount Sinai. I'm not 100% sure.
oh no, it's
We
not Mount Sinai. No,
Yeah,
no,
so is it
no, it's
not?
not. No, it's not Mount Sinai. No.
Someone else is in there. I apologize.
Okay.
Someone
It's
else.
NYP.
Oh, okay. NYP. Okay, yeah. So,
And
so
Steve, it was a children's health center that was on that site.
At 600 West 168.
Yes, that's right. I used to took my oldest son. Yeah.
Oh no! But you're talking about 30 years ago. But
No, but it was still, yeah, it was still used as a health center.
yeah, no, yeah. It also, yes, it also had. I hope it still has the at least the child health clinic. That was on the first floor. But
I think right now what it is utilized mostly for is for our TB clinic.
oh,
Yeah.
let's get a report at the next meeting on what's happening in that building.
Yeah, I will definitely escalate the request because I did reach out to a couple of people. I wasn't able to get like a definitive sort of time frame.
Okay.
So I will definitely work on that to make sure I get you more detailed information as to where the project is and what the projected timeline is for completion.
Okay, but Pauline, but not just on the construction project, but also on how it's currently being utilized.
Okay, yeah, I mean, to my understanding is that we don't have a lot of space in there actually. So we just own the building. So I think that's sort of just the issue is that the fact that we own the building and so we need to complete the restoration, but inside we don't really take up that much floor space.
I mean, is there vacant space in the building?
I'm not 100% sure. I will find out.
Okay, let's find out.
Steve, so our Millman School of Public Health occupies some space there. And the NYP Youth Hub is also on that location. And Seniors Helping Seniors. Yeah,
well, Seniors Helping Seniors would be, I think, in the basement. But I thought the Youth Hub was down at 165th Street. It's in this building?
Yeah, we moved it there.
Oh, well, nobody told me.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, gosh. All right.
Come back in for
And what was the other thing you said is in there? I thought the Mailman School had also moved out. So there's still part of the Mailman School in there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's, do you know is there any vacant space that you know of?
Not that I know of, but we can check.
Yeah, let's check. All right. Very good. All right. So Pauline, why don't you go off to school and then report back to us on these other issues.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Okay, yeah, same to you.
Bye.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we're going to leapfrog the presentation by the animal care centers. I don't know whether or not they take care of frogs, but we're going to try to leapfrog that presentation anyway. And Mr. Paul Sanders, the Senior Administrator for Governmental and Community Affairs, has joined us. And are you ready to do your presentation?
Sure, I could do that now. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Do we have to do that?
No,
I got it.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. So first off, thank you very much, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Chairwoman, and members of the Community Board. I'm very happy to be here. I also see that Alex Silver from the Mayor's Office of Animal Welfare is with us today, who we work very closely with. So thank you for all of you for having us here. So
I'm sorry, hold on a moment. Alex, do you want to be promoted? Do you want to speak?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, you can speak.
I can speak. I don't know why I don't have a video option, but hello, I am here. Thank you so much. I'm excited to see the presentation and grateful for the invitation today. So thank you.
Well,
thank you, Alex.
Thank you for joining us. All right, I'm sorry, Mr. Sanders, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. So I am Paul Sanders. I am the Senior Administrator of Governmental and Community Affairs for Animal Care Centers of New York City. And we are proudly serving the pets and people of New York City through all 5 boroughs. So for those of you that don't know, Animal Care Centers is the largest provider of animal welfare services to New York City. We are a 501c3 organization with a contract with the City of New York through the Department of Health. We are a separate 501c3. We are not an actual city agency. By being a separate 501c3, it helps us to fundraise for programs outside of our city contracts, such as our community pets programs and things like that. ACC is an open admission shelter, which means we don't ever turn away any animal that comes to our doors. Now, we may ask if somebody can set an appointment with us if they have the ability to do so. But if someone needs to absolutely surrender an animal to us, we are there. We have recently has said that, we really were trying to stop dog intakes for a little while because our population is so crowded. But since we put that moratorium on 2 months ago, we've taken in over 1,000 dogs across the 5 boroughs. So, it's not really ever stops. But we do take an average of 20,000 animals annually, equates to about 50 to 60 animals a day, with our largest center intake in Borough of Manhattan. And as it says here, our mission is to end animal homelessness in New York City. That is a very short, succinct sentence for a mission, but it packs a lot into it, and it's quite broad, but it's something we will try to do every single day. Although we know we may never get to that point, we are going to continue to strive to do so. So as I said, ACC is an open admission shelter, so we accept all animals that come to our doors, no matter the medical or behavioral condition. We accept them all. Limited admissions facilities, which are rescue groups, sanctuaries, things like that, are just that, limited. They will accept based on resources and space. Sometimes it's only very breed specific or type specific or age specific, stuff like that. We need to have both models in any jurisdiction to really work together. And we're very proud to say that we do that at ACC with our New Hope program, and all of our rescue partners are our New Hope partners. We have many of them right in the city, in the borough of Manhattan. So we work closely with them. For those of you that don't know, we do have 3 full service care centers presently. We have one in Staten Island out by the Outer Bridge. We have one in Brooklyn, which is in East New York. And we have one in Manhattan on East 110th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenues. We also have a resource center in the Bronx on East Fordham Road. And then our headquarters is down on Park Place in the financial district, not far from City Hall. We don't house any animals in the Bronx or our headquarters ever. They will go, if they come into those facilities or the Bronx facility, we don't ever take animals in our headquarters, to one of the care centers in the other locations in the boroughs. We are about to embark on opening a brand new care center in Queens, which is really exciting. It's the first one in Queens. And it will hopefully help alleviate some overcrowding across the city. It is a brand new 50,000 square foot facility. It has some really great features, including a retractable roof. It has capacity for about 72 dogs, 110 cats, plus guinea pigs and rabbits. We will be hiring 80 to 100 additional staff members. We do find that our staff come from all over the city. So if you know anybody in your area that might be looking for a job, we are absolutely hiring presently, not just for the Queens Care Center, but also in our Manhattan Care Center. We do everything from entry-level animal care positions, attendance in the kennels, up to supervisory and managerial roles. We have veterinarian positions open as well. So if anyone knows anyone, we have that possibility. And then something else that is really great about our Queens Care Center is that we actually have parking for guests and clients right on site, which, as we know, parking is always a premium anywhere in the city, but we will have it on site in the Queens Care Center. I don't have a slide. Go ahead.
Is this facility funded by the city?
So this one was not funded by the city.
Okay.
This one was built by ACC. All of our other facilities were, as well as the upcoming Bronx Care Center, which will open up in 2025, is funded through the city. We are, though, with all of our contracts that still have obviously a tie-in, and this care center, we've worked with the city closely. We've actually just renamed to be the Paul A. Vallone Queens Animal Care Center. For those of you that know the Vallone family, Paul Vallone was a council member from Queens. He was presently working as a deputy commissioner in the Veterans Affairs Departments for the city, who passed away a couple of months ago. He was really instrumental in not just this facility, but all of our facilities, including, and I apologize, I don't have a slide for it, because we're still working on it. In Manhattan, next to our animal care center, we're opening up an adoption center, which will face on 109th Street, which will have cats and dogs mostly in that facility, but it will be a dedicated adoption center specifically for animals. We'll still have animals available for adoption next door in the care center, but this will be a place where people will be able to go as well in Manhattan, specifically just to adopt. So that'll be opening up this year as well in Manhattan. As I said, we have a big role in the community, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but we have 4 pillars, which development, marketing, technology, and human resources. Most organizations very much similar, but within that we have things like our adoption program and our placement program, which are our rescue groups, as well as student outreach and veterinary services, field rescue, and behavior to help our dogs. There are a couple more that I just want to really touch on, one being our admissions department. So we have a very robust admissions team that is not only there to help take animals in when necessary, but to help provide surrender prevention resources, to give those tools to owners of animals or needs to the animals themselves so that they don't have to come into our facilities. We have been very successful in doing that. Hundreds of animals already this year have not come into ACC facilities because we've been able to do things like provide food, some medical care, leashes, behavior trainings, things like that, so that they don't have to come into our facilities. Our community pets program, and I mentioned it earlier, not funded by the city, but through a grant that we have provided, is in certain areas of the city. And they do vaccine clinics as well as, microchip clinics, pet pantries, things like that. But our grantors have been very specific what neighborhoods they want that in. But the nice thing about it is it's not, just tied to those areas. So anyone from the city could go to those areas when we have those clinics and those opportunities. The other thing I just want to talk about quickly is volunteer and foster. So we always have volunteer opportunities in our care centers. Our volunteers last year gave over 30,000 hours of time to helping provide service to our animals, as well as fosters who opened up homes so that animals could leave our care centers and go into homes and be able to thrive, as well as get information, especially when they're strays. It's important to get information about these animals so that we're able to get them into forever homes. Like I said, the fostering is very important because it is a temporary home until we can find placement. Volunteers, again, we talked about that. Don't want to talk about that again. We don't need to do that. But here's some statistics. At the end of 2023, we had 3,900, a little over 3,900 surrender preventions. So that's 3,900 less animals that came into our shelters because we're able to stop that from happening through providing resources. We actually now have social workers on our staff that help work with people who are hospitalized, incarcerated, stuff like that, as well as people who may have some, health issues in other ways. Our community pets clinics vaccinated and chipped over 3,200. We administered, over 33,000 vaccines in the year between our in-shelter animals and fosters. But the ones that I really love is the Finding Pets homes. We did just about 6,400 pet adoptions and just over 6,100 animals were placed with rescue partners. as you can see, we did over 32,000. I said 30,000 before, but it was over 32,000 hours of work for our volunteers. We've also gone into schools. We did 103 community kids presentations across the 5 boroughs, with the majority of them being in Manhattan and Brooklyn. So we do get a lot of acknowledgement in education. We think it's very important that we're able to teach younger children and students the importance of proper animal handling and welfare, so that they can be responsible pet owners as they get older. And then, our social media, which I encourage you all to visit and like. We had over 41, almost 42 million reaches across our social media platforms in 2023. So we're asking how you can help, and I'm sure you're going to have questions for me about how we can help as well. But like I said, you can visit our website, encourage others to do the same. You can subscribe to our Borough Bread Bulletin, which will give you a bi-weekly update on ACC. You can also download our mobile app, ACC of NYC. So if you're looking for an animal to come into your home, that's the best way to do it. Follow us on social media. We're on, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. If you have the time, become a volunteer or a foster, and just, really just talk to people about ACC when you can. And that is all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes.
All right. My assistant chair, OC Kamina,
Sure,
is stock full of questions.
sure,
Right.
go for it.
Thank you, Paul,
No
for
problem.
being here. And I just want to say that we are probably, I'm just going to say it up front, we're probably going to invite you again for further, presentation on more specific issues. So
Sure.
before I start, I just want to have a disclaimer that I do volunteer with the ASPCA and
Very good.
also help Bronx Community Cats Rescue Group and also Bronx Tales Cat Rescue. I'm an
Very good.
independent cat rescuer myself. And actually one of your employees helping me here and there to do like feeding and stuff like that. So I just
Nice.
want to be upfront about that.
Nothing wrong with that. And just so you know, I'll let you know, I can appreciate the work you do. I am actually TNR certified. I have gone out in the field and done that work as well. So
Okay.
thank you.
So,
1 second. For those of us who aren't too familiar, TNR.
Trap, neuter, release. So
Sure.
it's when you have community cats, you trap them, you bring them in, they're neutered or spay or neutered, vaccinated, ear tips, so you have a very visible way to tell that they've been treated, and then you release them back out to the community.
This is the kind of thing you do. Huh?
yeah,
Okay, all right.
okay. So,
Go for it.
okay, so we have some issues in our district in terms of services.
Yep.
For pet owners, and the one that I really like about the program you mentioned briefly, if you can expand on that, is a surrender prevention program,
Sure.
which I'm assuming including food distribution, vaccination, wellness, and all of that. The issue that we face is that people don't know about your existence as an organization, let alone knowing about the program you may provide elsewhere, even if it's good for our residents. And so they come to me, or they come to rescuers in general. And small rescuers, you know how it is, there's not much we can do. And we notice an uptick, I at least noted an uptick of issues with pet owners that I'm taking their cats to get fixed, but I know that there are other issues that I cannot resolve. So I would like you to expand on the surrender prevention and what's it entail, and how can you bring that to the attention of our residents in our district, so people know where to go when they have problems.
Sure. So I wholeheartedly agree with you that, a lot of people do not know who we are and what we do. We do get a lot of people who think we are the ASPCA, which obviously we're not. We work closely with them, and we, appreciate our partnership with them, but we are different. We have different funding levels, different, scope of our work. So I agree that there is, that's one of the reasons that I'm in the role I am now, that I'm doing these outreach. I don't just do this. We have created entire teams that we're going out into the community to talk about these type of services. So the first thing I would say is, if your community board or any organizations in your area are having events that you think would be a good match for ACC to potentially come out and table at, to be able to speak to people. And this is not talking about adoptions. We're not looking to do mobile adoptions or anything at that point. This is purely us coming out saying, this is the services we provide in the community. So that's the one way. Now, if we have somebody who is specifically in need, they could always email our information account, and that gets fielded to the right department. So information at nycacc.org is a way to do it. You have my email address. You are welcome to give that to people. It does not bother me if you do, as well as community outreach at nycacc.org, and I can get that to the right place as well. But yes, I agree that, there is a lack of knowledge and in services. So like I said before, we have some surrender prevention, but one of the big things that we don't do, and we talked about this a little bit in email, is we do not have the capability to do high level, high scale spay and neuter for the community. We just don't have that ability, being from the funding of it to the availability of veterinarians, so we just don't have that capability to do that. Now, there are some organizations that we work with sometimes through our Community Pets program that will provide some of these services, but those are only, a handful of times a year. We do know that, there used to be a more robust amount of, opportunities, let's say, throughout the 5 boroughs from different organizations. And I hate to say it's because of COVID or since COVID, but it is what we've seen. And that, some of these programs have not returned yet, and they may not. So, we don't know yet. We are very much in the same, basket with you all in the trenches, that, we are waiting as well to see where some of that's going to come back. But the things like we can provide, if it's a food, supply, if it's cat litter, certain medical things, if there's a medical procedure. Perfect example is, because I live in Staten Island. I used to be the Staten Island Care Center manager. So we had a woman come in. She did not have a ton of money, but she had some money, but she couldn't afford to get a surgery for her dog's ACL ruptured. Now, this dog couldn't move, but that's not something that would be, the end of the animal's life. So we fixed it. We had it take care of. The dog is fine. We can't provide things like chemotherapy, things like that, where, the cost just so outweighs, the potential return on it. So, things like that we could do, and that's through our action grant program that we have. So, we asked, whatever you can provide. Another example I can tell you this
Paul,
wasn't meant. Go ahead.
Paul, I'm sorry. Can I clarify something on that? Because just for my own clarification too, I bet when you do that, you're not doing the care at ACC, right? You're setting them up, because I think people sometimes are confused and they think the care centers are medical facilities for owned animals, and they're not.
No.
So.
Correct. We work with partners throughout the city, and we will send you to them, and they will provide the services. One of the biggest things that and this is a veterinary thing, and it's an ethical thing, is that in order, and it's the same thing with humans for the most part, you have to have a doctor-patient relationship. So we can't just take an animal off the street and do surgery. There has to be an established relationship. So that's why we provide the information to go to a vet, to say, this is, Sally Jones and her dog Sam. She needs this service. They establish a relationship. We pay for We would not be able to do follow-up stuff like that if we had the dog in our care, for the surgery, and then they had to go. So that's why we farm it out to other places.
Are there vets that do like charitable services, or will offer these things for free to people of low income, let's say?
So I won't say that there's anything that's free that I know of off the top of my head. There are some vets that do have low cost, and it's usually through grant type programs that you could apply. And again, this goes into a larger conversation that I think that 20 years ago you may have found a vet when it was more privately owned that did more of that stuff. But now with everything being corporate owned, it's not as prevalent, but they are still out there. It's not, every vet doesn't do it, but there are some out there, and there are some that provide services on a sliding scale, and pretty much all vets will have some type of credit program that if they needed to do that, you could do that as well.
Do you have a like a one-page flyer explaining your services that the community board could send out?
So we don't necessarily have a one-page flyer that explains all the services, because we would never fit it on one page. I do have a form though that I could send to you, not a form, a flyer that has a QR code on it that will bring you to a landing page on our website that you could then go from there. I'd be happy to do that as well.
Okay, let's do that.
So I just want to clarify something that you mentioned the ASPCA, and I did contact them and I asked them to come, but they were unable to come tonight. They did tell me that the mobile clinic is scheduled to come back to Manhattan. We have no services in Manhattan at all. For 4 years, there are 0 services. So the mobile van is scheduled to come back in April, which we are in, or May, but so far they couldn't give me the schedule. So I don't have much information about that. I do know that Positive Tails is helping pet owners. You guys work with them?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We know of them. We appreciate the work they do. They're one of those limited admissions facilities, and they're not really a facility, they're more of a foster type based program, but excellent work. Yes. So what for a start, I would like to see if we can, maybe with coordination with Positive Tails, can get some sort of a wellness vaccination clinic in our district. You mentioned before that, the funds you get is for specific areas. I wonder if maybe the Department of Health can fund something in our district. Including with Positive Tails to have something, to start something. Of course, my goal is to have at least a clinic maybe twice or maybe 3 times a year. But let's start with one first and see if we can do something. So how can we go about that? So I don't have a definitive answer for that. I would say that you probably will run into a dead end with the Department of Health. The Department of Health funds for certain things and not others. If they were willing and did have the ability to fund these clinics, they would probably roll that into our contract. They just don't have that. What I will say, though, we do a lot of these clinics throughout the city outside of that grant, working with other organizations, through working with our council members and discretionary funding. So I believe it's Council Member De La Rosa is mostly in your community board. I would say, go to her, ask for a meeting, and say, hey, ACC, does these clinics around the city. Positively Pause is willing to assist as well. And see if they can come up with some type of granting. We get anywhere from $3,000 from some council members in discretionary funding up to $20,000 so that we could do multiple events in certain council districts as well.
So how much would you say how much would you say each such event might cost?
It depends on what you're folding into it. If you're doing just strictly vaccinations or just vaccinations in a pantry, but when you start doing spay and neuter, you can go anywhere probably from 2,500 to 5,000, is what you're looking at probably.
For what, for 20 animals about?
15 to 20, yeah.
Okay.
For spay neuter. I mean, we could do
Right.
food giveaway is a lot more, and even vaccines and microchips you could potentially do, more than that as well.
Right. Because it's going to be, it's very crucial because obviously from the reason I mentioned before, there is nothing. And the other thing is that, we are not solving the outdoor population of animals, and we do sometimes have dogs get tied in parks. So it doesn't, right now it's the situation is getting worse, not getting better. I wanted to ask you about rabies and distemper.
Sure.
If you can give us statistics on how many cases of raccoons, skunks, all the wildlife, I should say, that come into your facility with that tested positive for rabies or distemper. If you have statistics by parks, by zip code, by.
Don't know if I'm going to have it broken down that right at my fingertips. But hold on a second.
I believe that the Department of Health recently released information on that. I can look
that's
for
what
it.
I'm looking. Yeah.
All right.
And they have a website the health department puts out.
So I will tell you, it's not, the amount that people might think. There is a decent amount. It's more than one, so it obviously is a public health concern. I will say that Staten Island absolutely has had the preponderance of positive rabies raccoons in the city. We just had another one yesterday. But it's not, if I think we hit 50 overall for the entire year last year, I think that's a lot. I don't even think it was that many.
City?
Yeah, for the city. It's not that many. But it does happen. So yes.
Okay.
And the Parks Department, the police, as well as ACC, that's one of the, our field rescue team, if we get a report of a sick or injured wildlife, we do go out. So, we will, help and assist in that case. We don't go out just for the stray dogs. We're not the stereotypical old days dog catcher. So that's, we do work for injured and sick animals. So we will go out for that as well. I can't find it, but I can get you the numbers. Okay. I will send that over to you when I send that one.
I actually just came across it.
Oh, do you? Perfect.
Yeah, and I put a link in to a website, but it looks like a veterinary alert went out a little while ago, and of 403 animals tested for rabies, it doesn't break down by zip code or anything, but of 403 tested for rabies, I believe 12 were positive.
Yeah, it's a low number.
And you can see a map. They map it out on that website that I just put out.
You talk about wildlife, correct?
It includes cats as well, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, okay. If you look, so for those of you can, I can just tell you quickly, one skunk in the Bronx, one skunk in Brooklyn, one bat in Manhattan, 4 raccoons in Queens, 4 raccoons and 1 cat in Staten Island in 2023.
So all we had was one bat.
One bat. And I actually remember that case because I'm the one who does bite reports for the organization and the thing. So I remember that bat.
Do you remember where the bat was found?
It's on there. It's Columbus Avenue and West 87th.
Okay.
So not our district.
Not our district.
Not in your district.
No. Okay, not our district.
Okay. I'm sorry for them, but not us.
Okay.
Yes.
I do have one last question, and it's not
sure.
It's like so I went on the American Veterinary Medical Association and they have a calculator of the number of pets per household. I mean, I couldn't find exactly what I wanted, but I wonder if you have statistics on how many pets we have in a given either district or zip code or any of those, because I think we have the largest district in Manhattan in terms of population. Is that right? Steve?
It might be, I'm not sure.
I think so. So I'm curious about that because we only have three for-profit veterinary practice in our district, which is 155th Street to 220. Only three. And the cost for spay neuter is roughly anywhere between $600 to $1,000. And if you're looking at poverty rates in our district and the median income in our district, nobody can afford that. That's why I'm taking pet owners to get fixed on the ASPCA through the rescue program. Nobody can afford that. So the reason why I'm saying that, obviously you probably know all of this already, is that how can that information help us get more services in collaboration with ACC, ASPCA, other agency, but to get substantial more services in our district?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it's not an easy one. You know, and I understand it because when you talk to stakeholders in a community, you'll never get anyone to say that, you know, animals not important. But we always get well, there's this going on and that going on, and this is also going on, and the pot is only so big. So we need to figure out a way overall in messaging that really gets people wanting to move in the direction of funding these things. And, you know, we've had some success, but it really is going to just be continuing, you know, pounding the pavement, things that you're doing, things that ACC is doing, the ASPCA does on a local level as well as national, things that the mayor's office is doing with Alex. It's really just bringing that awareness. And the more that we bring in awareness, I think the more that it'll open eyes to the lack of these things and the needs. So I think that, you know, it is a long fight, but it's a necessary fight to have to get this information out there.
Oh, I'm not giving up.
Yeah, no, I don't think you are.
No.
And I'm glad.
Nobody is. I didn't hear anybody suggest that.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've begun to bring that awareness to our community.
Yeah.
With this meeting tonight. Are there any other questions? All right. Paul, you're going to send us some material.
I will send it to you first thing in the morning.
Okay, well, you can wait, you know, do it second or third. So I want to thank you for coming to this meeting, and
Thank you.
and I want to thank Alex as well. And
thank you.
For the work that both of you are doing.
Can I just add something really quickly?
No, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't want to talk too long. And again, I'm sorry I didn't have a presentation or anything prepared, but thank you, Paul, for that presentation, and thank you everybody for bringing this up because it is an important issue. I just wanted to note that all these issues that we talked about tonight, very much on the radar of the Mayor's Office of Animal Welfare. These are topics that we're constantly thinking about, whether, you know, access to vet care in your areas, in all of New York. And also, unfortunately, this is an issue that I think, you know, is happening across the country. And it's related very closely to a vet and vet tech shortage. And those are issues that we're constantly talking about and looking at. But we recognize that there's a need for more spay neuter and trying to figure out how to and accessible, affordable vet care. So these are things that I'm constantly talking to people about. I always love to talk to folks about. So please contact me, bring all these players together. ACC, ASPCA, other organizations Paul mentioned, I communicate with all of them. And I'm always looking for solutions because I think we're all working towards the same goal. And I did just want to add, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Queens Center is funded by the city. I think there was a comment about the funding for the Queens Animal Care. It's just that it's not managed by DDC like the other buildings. So there was a question about who's funding the Queens Animal Care Center. So
yeah. So ACC built the building, but is funded to run by DOH.
But was the construction funded by the city?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I assumed. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And Alex, are you the? Do I have your title correct? Are you the director of the Mayor's Office of Animal Welfare?
Yes, and please reach out anytime with any issues, and I'm always happy to speak further, whether it's about shelter animals or wildlife or working animals, any animal welfare related issues, I'm happy to speak to.
Okay, let me ask you something, which is, maybe this is a wild question. I think I saw on Facebook something about a deer crossing the GW Bridge a few days ago. Was that do you know, was that for real, or was that made
I
up?
did not see that. Paul, you're shaking your head too, right? I feel like
I didn't hear about that. A couple of days ago was April Fool's, so I think that may have been that.
But I will say, you know, we have lots of deer in Staten Island.
Staten Island, they cross the Arthur Kill all the time.
Oh, damn it. Okay, forget it. Oh my God. Oh my God, what a jerk. Okay,
it happens. We've had I used to work at I used to work at ACC. There was a capybara in Brooklyn, so.
No, we've had deers in Manhattan. There was a famous case of a deer in Jackie Robinson Park a few years ago, in which the city and the state were feuding over who had to take care of the deer. And then the deer ended up dying.
We remember that.
So I just did a quick Google search about deer, George Washington Bridge. So it doesn't look like it happened this week, but it has happened. So you're not that far off. So.
Oh, okay, good. All right, I'm not a.
Alex, one last thing.
Sure.
Is there anything in the making for getting vet tech doing neutering, just neutering for male cats?
It's so interesting. I actually asked a vet that yesterday about their opinion on that. And I know it can be controversial, and I feel like certain veterinary organizations may not like that. So I haven't seen movement on that. I'm not sure. One of the answers I got yesterday was interesting, was that they didn't feel like that was necessarily the answer. And that
check out what they do in California. They just passed that.
Yeah. I mean, I that's something definitely I'm happy to have further conversations on. I do think there's a lot of opposition on that from the veterinary field, is my understanding, but doesn't mean it's not possible to pursue. But.
All right, well, Alex.
And another thing I just want to add is unfortunately, we also have a vet tech shortage. So it's not just we have not enough veterinarians working in nonprofit organizations. We don't have enough licensed veterinarian technicians. We're lucky that we have LaGuardia Community College graduates, LVTs, licensed vet techs, but I think their class is 30 something. And it's a tough job, and it's probably could be paid a lot better. So there's a shortage, unfortunately, in the whole field.
Is Columbia Agriculture School is under Presbyterian or not yet?
There's no agriculture.
No, they do have.
Agriculture?
Yes,
Cornell.
Cornell. Cornell.
Yeah, that's something.
I know. Is it not under you?
No.
But Steve.
Okay, come on.
I'm asking. Come on, I'm trying to get that.
I wish I were there in person. You guys are having a good time.
I know.
It's like a fun meeting.
Alex, you have a standing invitation. You can come either in person or remotely to any one of our meetings. Whenever.
Thank you.
So I have to say, I agree. And just so you know as well, that I actually sit on one of the community boards in Staten Island, and we don't seem to have this much fun. So,
Well, this is a particular committee. I don't with a crazy chair. Okay, so I want to thank you. I want to thank Alex, and both of you are certainly welcome to come back whenever you have some news to bring to us, or some more information of any kind. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
thank you so much.
All right, appreciate it. I'm going to step away. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay,
Same here. Good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. All right, next on the agenda, Joseph Iannuso, the New York Presbyterian Group Senior Vice President for Facilities and Real Estate. He's going to talk to us about the hospital's plan to construct what they are calling a Cancer Plus building at Fort Washington Avenue and West 165th Street. This is his second appearance before the community board in 2 consecutive evenings, so he probably deserves a special award for just doing that. So thank you, Joe, for coming before us and giving us a really a heads up on this application before the actual certification period begins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I did have the pleasure of being here last night and presenting to the Land Use Committee. And actually, I think it was last Wednesday we were here. Was it last Wednesday? For the full board. Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's
three times within
3 times as the charm.
Within just a couple of weeks.
Take it tomorrow off, Steve. Just to be clear.
Okay, let me warn you. Let me warn you, by the way, that Wayne Benjamin, the chair of the Land Use Committee, is is also here tonight,
Yes,
remotely.
yes.
Okay.
Well, again, it is my pleasure to be here to talk about this project. It is in fact the cancer building that we're looking to build, and we have already submitted our documents to city planning. So the EAS, the Environmental Assessment Statement, has been filed. It's on the public portal of city planning, and I think that we've shared the link for those documents with this group.
Yeah, and I did forward it to the other members of the committee a few days ago.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to move through some of these fairly quickly so that we could get to the substance of the conversation. But I did want to pause here because this is October 1928 when Presbyterian Hospital was built. So we're quickly approaching that 100 years. We've been, NYP has been a member of this community for quite some time. And I could tell you a lot of healing has taken place in that building. And we're looking forward to the next century. And that's in part what we want to see happen through this building that we're talking about.
But NYP itself, as an entity, is hasn't been in the community all those years because we didn't have New York Hospital.
Correct.
That's how
Well, but
is that 20 years ago?
Yeah, it was in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So New York Presbyterian, as we're known today, is really as a result of a merger between New York
Right.
Hospital, which is now Weill Cornell,
Right.
and Presbyterian Hospital, hence the name of New York Presbyterian. So we have our roots in this community since what is now known as the Herbert Irving Columbia University Irving Medical Center. We have our roots in this community for 100 years. So we're proud to be here. I've not been there that long, so but I've been there quite some time. This slide is really just to pause and reflect for a minute that the quality of care that's delivered by New York Presbyterian and the Columbia doctors that work through that system. This is one of the most highly recognized cancer programs in the country. It's one of 51 comprehensive cancer centers, and it actually received its recognition in 1979. What we're looking to do with this project that we have before this group is actually to elevate the quality of the environment, the built environment in which patients are served so that it actually meets the quality of the clinical care. So that's a pretty high bar from our perspective. This is probably a map of the area that you're very familiar with. The blue in the center of the image are the two major parcels that comprise New York Presbyterian. Parcel B on the left is the Milstein Hospital building, if you're familiar there. And on the right-hand side, just across Fort Wash, it goes from Fort Washington to Broadway. And where we have that crosshatched area is where the I complex sits today. And that's where we intend to put up this new, this comprehensive cancer center. Before I get into the details of specifically, things that are really going to be of particular interest to this community, I thought we would put this in front of the group just to remind everybody that everything that we do, not only for this project, but anything that we do that involves significant construction, we do that in cooperation with any number of city agencies. So the agencies are on the left-hand side and their areas of responsibility are on the right-hand side, right? In fact, this is not unique to New York Presbyterian, but anyone that is building responsibly in the city is beholden to the agencies and to make sure that you meet all of their quality safety requirements to build. That's for the protection of the workers who are on the site, all of the construction team members, and certainly residents who are in proximity to a construction project. And New York is probably as far along in thinking about these areas of responsibilities like every major city across the country. You all deal with environmental assessment statements all the time, and you know that when you're contemplating a significant project, you have to, as the applicant, you have to work on each of these different areas that require full assessment and underlying analysis. And there are a few that, for the purpose of this committee, I want to take a few minutes and really drill down into hazardous materials, air quality, noise, and construction. And I thought it would be helpful to go into each of these areas a little bit.
I say we would also be interested Joe, we would also be interested in a few of these others as well.
Yeah.
I could always come back. I'm happy to come back. I will tell you,
But-
public health is an example.
Yeah.
Public health, the center of public health is really about air quality, noise, and construction. And that's why I'm gonna go into those.
But the water and sewer infrastructure, solid waste and sanitation, those are important issues to us as well.
Sure, I'm happy to come back. I can tell you,
Okay.
I can leap to a conclusion here quickly for you. In all of these areas that have been screened, the conclusion that's been reached is that there aren't any what are referred to as significant adverse impacts.
Right.
Some of them, there's a strategy, if you will, or a series of methods that you're required to take to avoid any impacts, and I'm going to get into that as well.
All right,
But if
perfect.
there's any subject areas, Steve, that you'd like me to come back, I'm happy to do that.
Energy.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about energy.
Mhm.
We're not missing anything at the top of this, right? No, it's just identifying that
Do we
the only
need
thing
this?
that's missing by the bar at the top is this technical
Yeah,
area
sure.
that we're looking at is hazardous materials. All right,
It was a question for Paul.
I don't know if I can change that.
Can we get rid of this image in this?
The speaker, but you might be able to minimize the top. You mean this?
Well, while we're moving that, what it says on the top.
I'm
is that-
sorry, you could put it on presentation view. Just hit view the presentation, that you'll only see that.
Who's playing? Carmen is doing it.
Yeah. Well, the only thing we're missing, I'll tell you what's on the top. The only thing that's on the top is it is telling us that everything below is in relation to the screening area called hazardous materials.
Okay,
And and it's attachment F in the EAS for your reference. The conclusion, as you can see here, is that no significant adverse impacts related to hazardous materials would result during or after the proposed project. Specifically, what that's getting into is during is the course of construction. So everything from abatement of the existing structure through demolition and then the construction of the new building. There isn't anything there that would affect hazardous materials. In fact, when you do a phase 1 and phase 2 analysis, part of what the phase 1 and phase 2 is trying to discern is whether or not there are any potential negative impacts on the building that's being proposed, not necessarily things that are going to be created by the building. One reason for that is when you're doing excavation and foundations, you're disrupting soils. So in fact, this building that we'll be demolishing has been there for almost 100 years. And that soil's been there for a long time. So it's possible that contaminants would have crept into that soil, even through groundwater. And then we would have the responsibility when we do excavation, test those soils. And if there is any contamination, then dispose of them appropriately. And in the disposal process, we have to make sure that I'm now on the bottom of the page, the next to last bullet. If we test soils and there's any contaminant, some combination of federal, state, and city agencies really determine how those soils need to be disposed of. Oftentimes, they have to go to a highly certified facility and they get baked. So they really get cooked, if you will, and that helps eliminate any of the contaminants that might be in the soil.
What about the asbestos from the old building?
Sure, that's a very good point. Up in that second area in the phase 1, we have to, on the right-hand side, building components could contain PCBs, lead-based paint, or ACM. That's more on the interior of buildings and sometimes in the roof or in around the windows.
Yeah.
So when you know the age of the building, you know you have to test the material. So you're going to test the roofing material. You're going to test any wrapping of mechanical equipment, which is oftentimes contains asbestos materials, sometimes even in flooring. You test it. If it does in fact contain asbestos materials, you have to dispose of it appropriately. And that's highly regulated on the site.
At which point are you going to be able to test the soil?
We've already done some borings in the soil for the purpose of identifying where the water is. We could talk about that, but we haven't tested the soils yet.
Yeah.
We have not tested the soils yet. We would test the soils during the process of demolition when we get down to the surface. Yeah. So this summary is on air quality. And again, the one of the primary things that this is looking to do is to determine, when you build this new building, are there potential risks for the building that you have to be mindful of? So for instance, we have direct impacts, and those are, they're generated by stationary sources. What does that mean? New York Presbyterian, on this large scale development that we have, we currently burn fossil fuels for our main plants, boiler plants, to create steam. That boiler stack, the second bullet under the pollutant concentrations, is covered by a Title V permit. Title V permits are, they require that the owner, the user of that stack, you have to measure the emissions from that stack on a regular basis. And you have to measure noxious emissions. And you have to make sure that those emissions are below the thresholds that are set by the local governments. So we know that we have a Title V stack in the area. We know that we're putting a building up. Buildings have ventilation, oftentimes on the roof or on mechanical floors. And in those systems, we're drawing into the systems outside air. So what this analysis is determined to do is to make sure that the air that you're drawing in is not contaminated. So it all has to work together. My organization has responsibility for making sure we meet our Title V emissions. And again, that's very highly regulated for all of our benefit. And then that does not pose a risk to the new building that we're building. Okay.
It's hard to accept the first bullet point that it's not going to significantly alter traffic conditions. I mean, won't this building, isn't the idea that you're going to serve a lot more people with this building?
No, it's not. I'm going to get into that in a minute.
Oh, okay. All right.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
And Steve, I would just pause here now and tell you that as we manage this facility every day today, traffic on Fort Washington and 165th cannot get much worse. It just cannot get much worse.
Yeah.
We're doing everything that we can to mitigate that. And quite frankly, we had made tremendous progress before COVID. Post-COVID, with the number of folks that are now in their vehicles, it's been very, very difficult to stay ahead of that. But if we are open to every good idea. We currently have, with the support of the NYPD, we have 2 police officers helping us manage that intersection. But it is very, very hard today. Noise. And we're going to talk about noise twice. Here, the noise again is in this level of the analysis, attachment H in the EIS, is also thinking about noise in the building, because the requirements of the city want to make sure that when you build a building today, that the interior occupants of the building, you have to design so that everybody inside the building, there's no more than 45 decibels in the building from outside noise, right? So it's got to be 45 decibels or less.
That's almost library noise. Library is 40, I think, right?
Yeah. But
Okay.
40 is almost silent.
Yeah,
Although on the dB level, it starts at 0, but 40 is almost silent. Very hard to achieve in New York City.
With good windows, you can.
With good windows, you can get close, but you're still not going to get silent. It's just not going to happen. You start by measuring baseline. You have to measure the mobile source, vehicles, trucks, ambulances, and even regular passenger cars. You have to take a look at any stationary sources. including like the stack that I mentioned, or emergency generators. Hospitals run emergency generators by code. And you really put all of that through what's called your noise exposure analysis. So again, this is measuring current state, and it's saying when you build this building, everybody in the building has to be kept safe as well. And you have to achieve a decibel level of less than 45 or less.
So what are you gonna do with the floors that right above the mechanical room? Remember we spoke about the mechanical.
That's the least of our worries, quite
Oh,
frankly.
really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
What happens, again, you know, when we think about buildings, we think about them in their finished condition.
Mhm.
But the floors in these buildings are really concrete slabs. And that concrete has a significant mitigation effect of any noise. The challenge with mechanical is more about vibration than it is about noise.
I see,
If you have something noisy on a roof, that can become a problem.
I see. Okay.
But again, it's, you know, this technology has grown quite well over the last probably 20 years. Let's talk a little bit about construction. This is not about analysis, but it is about some of the things that certainly are on our mind, and I expect on the mind of the community as well. The overall schedule, we're still saying we'd like to demolish this building in 2024. Let's just assume, for the sake of that we demolish the building in 24, by the end of 24. Excavation and foundation would take place throughout 2025. By 2026, superstructure is really the assembly of the steel frame of the building. That would take place in 2026. And by the end of 2027, the building is, you know, it looks like it's finished. And it is on the exterior of the building, but there would still be work taking place on the interior. So all of the finish work. As we look forward to this project, we expect that the hours of work, again, which are governed by New York City Department of Buildings, 7 a.m. in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. There will clearly be periods of time, and that more often than not that's when you're working on the interior space, where we would do selective overtime. And as you probably know, overtime has to be approved by New York City's Department of Buildings. So usually, you know, before you get to the actual days that you want to work overtime, you have to submit that notice to DOB, and they have to review and approve it.
I think they also refer that issue to us and ask us to advise on whether or not we think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Does construction have to begin at 7 in the morning?
It typically does.
But does it have to? I mean, can't we let people sleep a little longer, maybe?
Yeah, Steve, I think that's maybe also a conversation we have to have more broadly with the city. I mean, I think these are just the normal hours of construction that
maybe you could
exist
just
everywhere.
maybe you could just talk to your contractor.
And you're actually operating within a hospital when it could be a little stressful when patients need to, you know, they will wake up at 7.
What I appreciate about your observation is your interest in how well we manage this project are exactly the same as ours, right? We're gonna have patients right next door to this building. Some community residents are gonna live right across the street from this building, right? On the south side of 165th Street.
Right.
But our interests are all aligned. We have patients, doctors, visitors, employees. But at the same time, building anything in this city, you're in immediate adjacency. So we'll work within all of the, you know, all of the rigorous guidelines that the city makes available to us, and we'll do this in the most responsible way that we can. The other thing, just in the lower right-hand side, any building project I've ever been involved in out of the ground, we have a very aggressive rodent control program. We've started a lot of that investigation already. Starts in the garden, goes into the building, and then there's a lot of remedial work that we will do with our third-party experts before we actually take the building down.
Will you
use
share a
the
little bit
poison?
more about what the control is?
I'd be happy at the right time, because it will probably even evolve before we start the demolition. Come back and maybe we'll even bring one of the experts with us.
Yeah, because that's already an issue in the neighborhood.
Yeah, Carmen is on 164th.
164th.
So she,
Yeah, Carmen, I'd be happy to
Yeah.
come back and
She-
do that.
she's
And we'll-
she's one of the neighbors that you may be disturbing at 7 in the morning.
there are 40,000 plus employees at NYP. I will disturb a lot of them in building this project on any given day. But Carmen, I'd be happy to come back, probably with one of the experts on the, I'll call it pest mitigation, but rodent, in particular. Be happy to come back, even if it's a small conversation and talk through the details.
Thank you.
Again, on the construction side, three things in particular: noise, dust, and deliveries. These are three nuisances on any construction project, but certainly whenever you're doing a new building out of the ground, it's more significant. These are things that we will be committing to formally with the city. And Steve, as you probably know, oftentimes these are codified in what's called a restrictive declaration. All the restrictive deck means is these are the things that the applicant has committed themselves to. And that will all happen as, well after this project has been approved as we go step by step. But just to give you a sense of what we'll do, on the noise side, again, all of the equipment on the job site has to meet the New York City noise control standards, which are getting stricter and stricter by the year. No complaint about that, right? But that's just the reality. Electric powered tools as opposed to diesel fired tools. You want to minimize, first of all, you don't want any idling of trucks or equipment, and you want to minimize, the backup alarms, right? So you hear a garbage truck in your neighborhood and they're backing up, you're going to get that beeping. And we will attenuate the construction fence around the project site with what are called attenuation blankets, which really does help bring down the sound. On the airborne and dust mitigation, there'll be a very extensive dust control program, including two other things I want to point out here: ultra low sulfur diesel fuel, where diesel is required. We want to, of course, require our contractors to use the most, the newest equipment possible, which again keeps getting better from a noise perspective, and what's called tailpipe reduction technologies. That is, any trucks or vehicles, you want them to be producing as little exhaust as possible. So all of these things, we'll be obligating ourselves to.
Let me talk about the trucks for a second.
Yeah.
First of all, they're going to be removing truckloads of soil,
Debris.
debris, and possibly contaminated soil. We don't know from the site. Do you expect that they'll be taking it to someplace in New Jersey?
I don't know where it will go yet, but it gets back to your point about the testing of the soil. When the soils are tested, if there are contaminants in the soil, specific contaminants oftentimes have to be directed to particular sites.
Yeah.
So we don't know what that is yet.
But my experience with brownfields that being remediated in the community is that more often than not, they end up taking the contaminated soil to someplace in Jersey or maybe even Pennsylvania.
It could.
So my concern is to limit the time in which these trucks are traveling through the community. And the advantage here at 165th Street is that you can quickly go over the bridge,
That's
up the Riverside Drive or the Henry Hudson, over the bridge, and really have very little impact or with anybody who lives in the community.
Yeah.
So it's my hope that's what's going to end up happening, that you just go down the drive, go up to the bridge, go across, and nobody in the community will have any possible impact. But and one more point on, and my experience with the brownfield remediation is that the trucks are also covered.
Correct.
I forget what whether it's burlap or it's something, it's
Or
something.
tarps. Yeah,
Tops.
Yeah.
So that would certainly be the case here, would it not?
absolutely it would.
Okay.
And there's one more piece which is being hidden. But again, I don't know how to move that.
You just press the little arrow on the left-hand side. We could just go back and forth.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The reason I wanted to move that one is the other thing that we think is important, Steve, and not everybody will do this, but we will be, there's like a car wash, if you will, that goes past the undercarriage of the big heavy equipment before it leaves the site as well. All right. So it's just a wash down.
Regardless if it's rainy or not out,
Yeah, it's
Okay.
really more about,
just washing
let's
the,
call it a dust mitigation. Right?
Okay.
Because, if that's still embedded in the wheels as they're moving, it's
Right.
becoming airborne dust. We've talked a little bit last night and even a few questions last week when I was here about what will the, how will the building operate? And I just thought these few points might be of interest. With respect to LEED, LEED is, as you probably are all aware, a standard that by which when you're building a new building, there's a variety of different metals, platinum, gold, silver, that you can try to achieve. Very, very difficult for healthcare because healthcare by our nature, we're 24/7. We're not a commercial office building that shuts down at some point in the evening. Our energy consumption is probably, as high as, everyone except maybe manufacturing plants that are running 24 hours a day. But we're doing that for good and necessary reason. That being said, we're currently tracking LEED Gold. We'll see where we end up by the time we build this building because there's even, everything from where you're buying materials and how much energy is consumed getting those materials to your job site is part of the consideration for LEED. And we will not know some of those things until we buy all the finished materials. Local Law 97 is part of our future. We can debate Local Law 97, its merits and its problems. One example I'll give you, and it's mentioned in the electrification, look, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and our carbon footprint makes good sense for all of us. However, as we sit here today, we have to run emergency generators. We have to have emergency generators, right? As a fail-safe if power were to go out. We have many patients on life support, literally life support. The only emergency generators that can be run today are on diesel fuel. So that is in direct tension with Local Law 97, because Local Law 97 says no fossil fuels. All we need is a solution for emergency generators. That solution doesn't exist today because we have to run it on diesel. You can't even run it on natural gas because natural gas is considered to be an interruptible source. Like if that line breaks, your generator goes off. And we have to have 96 hours of diesel fuel on hand. In case there's ever an outage, you have to switch over to your generators immediately.
Is this a point that you've made to the city council?
We've been very involved with the city through the lobbying process as they've collected information, not only from citizens, but also from big institutions.
Are they looking at this generator issue?
Well, this is already, parts of this is already set in Local Law 97. You have to get off fossil fuel.
Right,
What we're still trying to work on is what the alternative
But you're saying
technologies are.
you're saying there's no generator available.
There isn't.
There
isn't, but we still have time, right? The penalty phase of Local Law 97 doesn't really kick in until 2030. So we have time, not a lot of time as these technologies emerge, but we do have time.
so, I mean, okay, so I'm kind of, I see LEED and I'm not happy with LEED for a variety of reasons. You get points for like bicycle rack. I mean, it doesn't directly involve the emission of the building, but
it does include it.
What?
Right.
But it doesn't, but it gives you point that it's not related to the emission that you otherwise Okay, it
Okay.
doesn't matter. I'm not gonna
Sure.
argue about the systems. I'm just want to say, I want to ask, why is it not passive house? Because I thought the city passed a law that all new construction, I forgot what the year
Passive-
for it
Yeah,
must be passive
no, passive house would be applied to residential.
only.
This is not residential.
I-
You're
I
not,
am-
no, let's pause here. You're not gonna have operable windows in a healthcare facility like this. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. We have to control within a hospital building like this, we have to control temperature and humidity at all times.
I understand it, but you know, if you look at passive house windows, they're really good
Okay,
and expensive, I get it, but
no,
they're,
it's not about that. For us, that's not about passive house. Right?
Okay.
That passive house is generally for residential projects.
I'm not gonna argue on this. My second question is, what you're saying here is that by the time this building is gonna open, it's not gonna even, I'm talking about local law 97. You have 2 years to start retrofitting something.
No, we're not,
Because
we're not,
2030,
we're not gonna have to retrofit anything in this building. Let's step back for a minute. On these two blocks that we have, we run district energy systems, right? We have big systems that are chillers and steam distribution. There is enough capacity in what we're already generating in our plant to service this building. This building is only an incremental 300,000 square feet, as we looked at last night. We have that capacity in our plant. The bigger challenge for us is not this building, it's what technology will emerge to allow us to convert the existing plant between now and 2030.
I thought it's 500,000 square feet, 550.
It is, but the
Okay.
incremental square footage, right? Because we're taking down the I complex that's there today.
Okay,
That's about 180,000 square feet, and the
Okay.
service building annex, about 7,800 square feet. The incremental square footage that we're adding to the site is just over 300,000 square feet.
okay. I still not clear as to why by 2028 you're only gonna, I get the 2024 because the building does not exist, but by 2030 you'll have to, I mean, but
There isn't
you're not gonna be in compliance, your benchmarking will.
Well, there's nothing, we don't have to worry about this building. Again, the bigger issue for us is gonna be what will our strategy be to convert the existing plant, which runs on fossil fuel, and that's gonna have to be electrified if we do that,
And which serves the entire complex,
the entire complex.
not just this building.
Correct. But before we get there, there are
Yeah.
other things that we have to talk about, and that would be, is there a sufficient amount of electricity in the neighborhood for us to convert all of this equipment that's currently being, sourced by fossil fuel? We
You're
don't
not
have the
alone,
answer
you're
to
not
that.
alone with that.
No, I understand, but we
Right.
don't have the answer to that yet,
Right.
right? We'd have to work with our colleagues at Con Ed on that solution as well. But this building, we're designing this building with the understanding that local law 97 is in the future.
Mhm.
We're designing it, but we're still gonna take advantage of the fact that we're going to serve this building through our current central plan. The central plan at some point is gonna have to be modified, but that plant will still service this building,
Okay, so this
right?
will
Everything's
have to be
connected for
modified.
us. It's the circulatory system,
Yeah.
right?
The building itself doesn't need any,
So
Yeah.
what your anticipated grade in 2030?
My what?
Anticipated grade for this new
I have no
building?
idea. I have no idea.
But you already know that,
Well, first of all, there's no grades associated with local law 97.
Yeah.
There are penalties.
right, but that's according to, okay, the
No,
grade is the
There's no
benchmark.
grades.
good.
It
there
is
are grades.
penalties, it is penalties associated with how much
Emission.
fuel, no, how much fossil fuel you're using.
It's okay, so for you, maybe it's different, residential is different, so we're
Yeah.
not gonna,
Yeah,
fine. But I'm still. I still have a problem with 2030, where you're not gonna be in compliance by 2030.
Look, if we're not in compliance, we have to pay penalties.
I know,
Well, we don't-
but that's not the point.
How do we
No,
know how do we know he's not gonna be in compliance?
because you just said it until 2029.
No,
No,
I think we're missing each other a little bit. We will design and build this building with the reality of local law 97 directly in front of us. There's no question about that. However, it would be irresponsible for us to not take advantage of the central plant that we currently have. That plant today is far more energy efficient than if we had chillers and boilers in every building. That's fact.
Okay.
It would be irresponsible for us to not take advantage of that. At some point, there will need to be a solution to convert the fossil fuel fired equipment to electricity. But a lot of things have to happen there, including that there has to be sufficient amount of electricity brought to this area for us to stop burning oil and natural gas and convert to electricity.
I understand
It's
that.
about 10 years ago, we all had to get off of number 6 oil,
Four,
right?
yeah.
And go
No,
to number
6,
2,
yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah,
We figured that out, but that was still from a firing perspective.
that was very simple.
It was less complicated than it is to go
Correct.
oral electrification.
All right,
Steve, you asked,
let's move on.
yeah, you asked before about, we were talking about like how many people are going to be in this building. What we're trying to do here is we have a highly distributed way that we deliver cancer today. We want to bring that into a single building. So it's about efficiency for us, almost more than anything else. We want to consolidate it, and we accept that anything that we design and build today operates far more efficiently, even from an energy perspective, than something we built 100 years ago. You look at old buildings, even on our campus today, there's a lot of window air conditioners. That is inefficient. This will not have any of that. And they might not have called it passive house 100 years ago, but ventilation was open the windows and the doors. We can't deliver healthcare in that manner anymore. We just can't. We can't. We have to control the air, the temperature, the humidity, and the cleanliness of that air for everyone's benefit, right? Lower portion of this building is ambulatory surgery, imaging equipment, MRIs, CTs, CTs being CAT scans, X-rays, ultrasound, and so on. The upper portion of the building is where cancer patients will receive infusion therapy and have their exams on the day of their infusion. We see that also evolving, maybe someday we evolve away from infusion therapy and we're talking more about cellular and gene therapy. That's probably not that far off. It's happening now. Actually, NYP was very involved in what is looking like a cure of sickle cell through gene therapy. And there was an 11-year-old patient recently, I think, right? So a lot of good things to come there. Open space is, of course, important. We know that we have the park just down 165th Street, but we want to bring some open space back into right onto the sidewalk. And let's take the benefits that brings us as well. Just a quick conceptual rendering of what the lobby may look like. We want this to be a welcoming experience. The vast majority of patients walking through this threshold do not want to be there. They don't. It's a frightening experience. It's an anxiety-provoking experience, but the built environment can help mitigate some of those things as well and actually contribute to the healing environment. Day of surgery for a patient. The way that we think about this is patient and family member arrive. They're placed into a prep recovery room, which are, if you look at the right and left-hand side where those glass doors are, the patient is placed in that room. The entire care team comes to the patient. Vitals, blood work, anesthesiology, ultimately the surgeon, and then the patient is brought into the operating room. Their family member can wait here. That's their room for the duration of their ambulatory stay. This building is all ambulatory. It's not inpatient. So after a brief recovery period, patients are discharged. And then we typically, what we do is, right around the exterior wall, when you're in the building, that's the vast majority of patient navigation. It's much more intuitive. You have points of reference. You're able to move around the building on the exterior. The clinical teams move through the building on the interior spaces. All right. And this is, again, just a rendering of what the new infusion center would look like. I think that's it, Steve.
Could you go back and show the image of the entire building? Yeah. So what are you calling the waste?
Exactly, the waste. Yeah.
Is that a terrace area where the patients will be able to go and
Not
sit
patients,
around, or
probably, because that floor, there's two things happening in that waste. What you call it is exactly what we call it. There's two things
Oh, no,
happening.
I don't call it
It's
the
the
waste.
waste.
I'm just using that term to make
Yeah.
you happy, but
Well, what would you call it if you wanted to make me unhappy?
I don't know. I mean, it's a little bizarre, but I would hope it's a terrace.
It probably will be a terrace or have some terrace-like functions, probably for the clinical team members.
Oh.
For two reasons. On that floor, there's a mechanical section of that floor, and there are spaces for the clinical team members on that space. So it's logical for us. Things may change over time, but it's logical for us that that's where clinical team members might be able to get a little bit of a respite.
All right. So the current concept is that it would not be open to the public,
No,
just to the staff.
that's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And just to the left on this image is the service building.
Yeah,
The service building today.
but it doesn't look like that today.
No, it doesn't. It's going to look like that though. But the service building is called the service building because it was all back of the house type. It was laundry and IT switches and phone rooms and that type of thing. We're actually converting that building so that the top two floors, 6th and 5th, is going to be mother baby or OB. So when moms deliver their child, those top two floors are going to be OB rooms. It's going to be pretty exquisite. And then on the 4th floor, we have a pediatric unit for the clinical teams, not for patient care. And then below it, we have what we call central sterile, which is where all of the equipment for the operating rooms are sterilized and processed.
Yeah.
So we're really turning that building completely into a patient-facing building.
Could you show the slide that indicates where the various other services are being moved into the new building? Yeah. So does this result in freeing up space where currently I believe both the university and the hospital have offices in residential buildings all over all over this immediate community. Is it possible that you could move some of those offices now into the space that you're freeing up as you bring these services into the new building?
It's possible, Steve. I would say, is it 601 West 168th Street?
I have a particular gripe about that building.
We do have some offices in there.
Right.
The genesis of that is for what I'll refer to as hospital buildings, where we're seeing.
This one is a privately owned building.
No, just bear with me one minute.
Yeah.
What happened is for the buildings where we're seeing patients, we needed more and more of that space to see patients over time. So what we did is we took administrative functions out and moved them into the community. 601 is the home of the vast majority of that. I don't think we have administrative space in many other buildings.
In none of the residential buildings that you own?
No.
Okay.
No,
But,
I have some of my management team who manage the residential facilities on the ground floor of a couple of those buildings, but not much more than that.
So maybe well, 601 is the one that does stand out in my mind.
Yeah.
Because by all rights, that should have remained a residential building, and I really don't know that it was converted legally into office space.
Yeah.
So and I have brought this issue up years ago with the university. University promised me that they would be moving out, and they never did. But what is the possibility that you can move your offices out of 601
I
and
wouldn't,
take and into some of these
yeah,
spaces that you'll now be freeing up?
yeah, Steve, I wouldn't rule it out. Let me say it in two ways. I wouldn't rule out, I agree with you on the necessity to move administrative uses out of that building. I agree with you about that. Whether or not they should be moved into any of these buildings, I question, because every building that's sort of labeled there is serving patients. And we need the space to serve patients more and more. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't find another home for those administrative uses in 601. I don't disagree with you about that, but I don't know that these would be the right spaces for it.
Okay, so you're now committed to find other spaces.
I'm committed to continue to look at that.
Okay.
Finding other spaces in this neighborhood,
Yeah.
you know how easy that is,
Yeah,
right? And some of those uses, Steve, they're only there because the arguments have been made clear that those people need to be in proximity to caring for patients. I'll give you one
Okay.
example. Nursing education is one of those users in that building.
Even though we have a new nursing building.
But the university has a new nursing building.
Oh,
NYP does
okay,
not have a new
okay,
nursing building.
okay.
But I do know that
Okay.
the nursing building
Yeah.
is filled with nursing students,
Yeah, okay.
right? So there's always a
Okay.
competition
And
for
now,
space. I get that.
and you are now building a new 13-story building on a Broadway and 169 to
We
170th
will
Street.
eventually.
So what about possibly using some space in that new building for some of these uses?
I don't think so. But again, let me make your argument with you. Putting up that building, which is on Broadway between 169th and 170th.
Right.
That is going to house graduate medical education students, right? Nursing, doctors, public health, social work, dental. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. If the university doesn't provide housing for those students, they too will compete for housing in the neighborhood. It's better for the university to house those students. It is.
Well,
So, but my only point in mentioning that is everything competes for space. Everything competes for space.
well, I would like to see you move out of 601. And I really, it never should have been converted out of what was a
Well, I can't-
legally residential
I
building.
can't speak to the conversion
Yeah.
because that happened
Yeah,
many, many, many years ago, probably decades.
okay, one more question.
Please.
So especially with the fact that some services are being moved out of Millstein. Well, let me go back a step. The commitment we now have for the restoration of the psych beds at the Allen.
Correct.
So we lost 30 psych beds. The commitment we have is that 24 are going back at the Allen. 3 are going into Millstein. Millstein is going to expand, I believe, from 25 to 28 psych beds.
That's right.
So now we have a net loss of 3 psych beds. And every psych bed, especially in the current situation we have in New York City, is very important. So if you're freeing up space in Millstein, can we find space for 3 more psych beds?
No. Steve, when we build a patient unit, first of all, there's a couple of things at play there. When we took the beds offline at the Allen, you know why we took those beds offline? Because we needed to convert the space to care for patients with COVID.
Right.
That was simply an unfortunate fact. In NYP, we cared for probably more patients across New York City than any other healthcare system. That's fact. When you take beds offline and then we're working to restore them, we have to restore them to current code, not the former code. In restoring beds to the current code, you have to meet all of the requirements, including how much space per room, how much space per patient, all of the ancillary support spaces to support the direct provision of care. The code ultimately dictates how many rooms you can put into a space. So what happened at the Allen, in order to meet the current code, we simply couldn't get the same number of beds.
So the code changed, is what you're saying?
Code evolves, it changes constantly. The code, whether it's Office of Mental Health or New York State Department of Health, the code constantly changes, constantly changes.
Okay, but the bottom line is that we are losing 3 beds, psych beds, and which
No argument there.
we desperately need.
No argument.
So,
But you're also talking to a healthcare system that provides more more behavioral health beds in this state than almost anybody else.
Yeah, but we need
That's the
them,
reality.
I know, but we also need them in this community.
And we're gonna have them in the community.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have them at a level of care and a level of quality that doesn't, it's second to none. Everything that we do in that regard.
So why did you convert Allen during COVID? You had a whole tent at Columbia, the
No.
football.
And we needed it all.
That is a bubble
I
there.
know, I managed that,
Okay,
correct. We
So-
needed every bed. We built that facility on the soccer field that was
Right.
covered by a tennis bubble.
Mhm.
We put 288 beds in there. And within the first 2 days that we opened it, I think we had about 150 patients being treated in that space. If the patients weren't treated in that space, where would they have been treated?
no, I have no issue with the bubble, that would temporary
Right.
bubble for that reason. No, that was fine. I'm talking about the actual building.
But the
Alan.
building was filled with COVID patients.
On top
90
of the tent, the
Yeah.
bubble?
Absolutely.
Well, the thing
It
is,
had to do with
I-
it had to do with the level of care. How acute was the patient that needed to be treated? A lot of patients early on in COVID, the only treatment for a COVID patient, the only treatment was to help them breathe. And it was intubation.
Yeah.
That had to happen within the walls of the hospital.
Yeah.
The less ill patients we had in the bubble.
Yeah.
We converted, you name a space across our hospital system, we converted that space temporarily to take care of COVID patients. That's
Including
just the
office
reality.
space?
Not office space. We converted cafeterias. We converted atrium spaces.
Right.
We did. We had no choice.
So you can't like shrink the cafeteria size to
Have you
accommodate three
been
beds?
to the cafeteria at Columbia?
No, I'm talking about
So
Allen. You're talking about Allen, right?
Allen.
We talked three beds.
Alan doesn't,
well, I'll take the
Yeah.
3 beds in Milsheen.
Whatever it is.
I don't, they don't, the beds don't have to be at the Allen. They just have to be in the community.
Steve, nobody has to fight with us to restore the beds.
Oh, no.
We want-
Oh,
did.
that's a strange statement for you to make.
It's not.
That's a very strange, no. Because it took us how many years to actually get a commitment out of Presbyterian that you were going to restore the beds? How many times did I ask, you weren't at those
I
meetings,
wasn't.
and I don't want to go up on you, but I don't know how many times I posed the question and did not get an answer from the hospital as to whether or not the hospital was ever going to restore those beds.
Steve,
And this to me was really
Yeah.
a dereliction of duty on the part of the hospital. When you talk about how wonderful the hospital was, there should have been no hesitation. The hospital should have said right away that as soon as we can, we'll restore the beds.
Yeah.
But the hospital never said that for the better part of 3-4 years.
yeah.
Now, only recently did the hospital finally say, in the last month,
Because
only
they're
a month
forced to.
ago, did Julio finally report to us that the hospital is prepared to restore the 24 beds. I mean, that's wonderful. That's great. We still have to wait another year, but it's been really not a very pleasant experience to deal with the hospital on this issue.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Well,
But when you started your report this evening.
Yeah.
You started talking about the ever presence of COVID. It's still there.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
has not
Yes,
gone away.
yes,
And we're down to maybe 10% of what COVID
Right.
numbers were a
Right.
year or two ago.
right.
Nobody knew where COVID was
No.
gonna go.
No, see, I don't object to the conversion of the beds to COVID. And even if, there was no way to anticipate at that point how severe the situation would be
Correct.
and how many beds you might need. I don't even question whether or not you needed those beds, or whether or not they were actually being used during the pandemic. I would love to know, but I don't hold you responsible for that. I mean, it would have been nice if the hospital had informed us, if we didn't find out about it second or third hand. That's another gripe I have about the hospital and its interactions with us during this period. But I don't begrudge the fact that you did that, because you had to deal with COVID. I mean, this was an unprecedented situation, and we didn't know how many patients you were going to have to take care of. But that's not my issue, not at all. But my issue is you had an obligation under the Article 28 license to provide psych beds, and you should have been able to say, whenever I ask the question, as soon as the pandemic enabled you to do so, you would restore the beds. And I couldn't get an answer out of the hospital for how many years on this question. That's enough of that. In fact, take the message back. Tell Dr. Corwin, because I even questioned Dr. Corwin about this at some point, and I didn't get a very pleasant response either.
I have a few questions, please. I was looking through like the data that we had, and I couldn't find the budget for this. What was the budget cost for the project?
Yeah, we don't publish a budget for this. But I'll tell you how it's funded. It's funded from three sources. Any project we do is funded from three sources. Net income from operations, from running the hospital and the system. Debt, we can borrow money, or we raise money from donors. Those are the only three sources of funds that we have.
Well, last night you told us it would be at least $1 billion.
Correct.
Something to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Second question, is this going to affect any jobs like for the next 4 years, like any jobs within the hospitals?
Not within the next 4 years. There'll be construction jobs that'll be created by this project, but not jobs within the hospital. Once the hospital opens, there'll be some incremental jobs, but a fixed number of those jobs hasn't been determined yet. Because again, most of the services we're putting in here, we're moving from existing centers of care that already exist in the hospital.
And why don't you publish the cost of the project?
Why? Why should we?
Why not? It's a service to the community.
Why is it a service to the community?
I mean,
Publishing the cost of the project?
No, but the purpose of the building is to better service the cancer patients.
Correct.
And you reside in the community. And PSB files 990, which is public record, so why not publicize the cost of the budget?
We don't publicize the cost of any capital project.
So at no point does it ever become public?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Is that policy? Like, is it like against it, or just doesn't occur?
But what's the benefit of publishing?
I think there's a lot of benefits. Yeah, we can see
Let's talk about it.
Like, what were you spending the money on? You know, what cost? You know, what are the funding sources? You
I
mentioned
told you
three.
the funding, those are.
But it's different between you saying and us having access to the data. Like if this policy that you don't publish it, what's the rationale behind it? Like this is like you mentioned, like Steve mentioned, $1 billion project last night, right? That's what you said last night. $1 billion. If you're willing to say that, why not put it in writing? Like why not make that public record?
I don't see the benefit to making it part of a public record.
Yeah, but that's you. Maybe members of the community do see the benefit. Because if you're spending $1 billion and that cash is flowing to a building that's gonna be in our community, we should have knowledge of where it's going, the ins, the outs, because maybe as part of that $1 billion, maybe it's more, maybe it's less. And then once again, like your revenue is public, like we can look that up. So why not public the expense if you're gonna incur the debt either way? I mean, it's gonna be on your balance sheet. Like we could probably look it up, but why not just like make it easy? The same way you present all this data, why not show the data of the cost and what the expenses are?
Look, you and I are not gonna agree about this. This is privately funded. This is not government funded. This is privately funded. Yeah. And there's only three sources that we have. Well, you and I could talk further about it, but there's no benefit to it. From my perspective.
Come back to what
Jacob has a question.
Thank you. So if you're moving all of these services out of these other facilities and they're not being used for offices, will there be an expansion of other patient services in those buildings?
It's possible. It is probable, but I couldn't tell you what those other services would be yet. The highest likelihood is services that are already in proximity to the space that would be vacated, they'll be repopulated. Some of those spaces today are imaging spaces, right? Or they're already operating rooms, and we'll leave the inpatient operating rooms in service in the Milstein building, but move the ambulatory cases over to the new cancer building. So some of them may already be rooms, but we'll be able to use those operating rooms for more inpatient procedures and put the ambulatory across the street.
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually thrilled about the project. I think it's very exciting. I am concerned about traffic flow around around the institution in general.
Yeah, Jody,
really concerned.
Jody is another neighbor.
Concerned about Fort Washington and 165th Street intersection, because you're right, it's horrible. We do have DOT now redesigning Lower Riverside and 165th, improving traffic flow and pedestrian safety down there. It's going to be a fairly extensive project, I think, when they get it started. It could actually occur in 2024. Would you be at all concerned about that? And should we also at the same time be looking at the Fort Washington intersection and possibly having DOT look at that from a redesign standpoint?
Look at the Fort Washington and 165th intersection.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Everybody should look at that intersection. DOT, NYPD, NYP, we all have a vested interest in that intersection.
Yeah.
If DOT has, we're also happy to sit with DOT. And
because they are doing a fairly, I mean, it's a pretty cool redesign of Lower Riverside Drive. And I know Julio and I we're gonna take a look at that in the next couple of weeks, I guess. I'm just wondering, I don't know if it's Sean's area or if it falls into but up at Fort Washington, is it Carmen now?
Yeah.
It moves into Carmen's area. I don't know, it may be worth taking a look at that, because if we could redesign.
We're happy to take a look at it.
Yeah.
But that would be DOT's plans. Happy to take a look at it.
Yeah, just as you're going through this, maybe making sure that if they're going to be doing the demolition of this in 2024, we know what's happening on Lower Riverside Drive.
Sure.
The two could be a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to sit with DOT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm taking attendance. Are there any other questions?
I do have a quick comment on going back to local 97. That you living the block away. Okay, so I'm not sure what is the formula that the city use, but the emission of the grade of the local 84, the grade of buildings is getting, we all getting grades, okay, is in relation to other buildings in our area. So let's say if, a building is like emitting more than they should, I'm talking about like 2030 and up, then your building is being affected by that. So the grade is not just what you emit as a residential or hospital, whatever. It's always in relation of everyone else in your area. And it's something, we should find out exactly how the formula is and what kind of area we're talking about. And just to say why it's important and why it's important that, nobody should emit more than are entitled to emit by the square footage of the building. But, I just had to say that
Okay.
that's all.
All right, good news, Sandra Harris reports that Columbia is no longer at 601 West 168th Street. So maybe you want to follow that example. And Wayne Benjamin had a question earlier. He wanted to know which consultant had performed the EAS.
AKRF.
Okay, that's a well-known firm.
Is he still online to hear that, to see it? Or we'll let him know.
Yeah.
No, we may have lost him.
Okay.
All right, it looks like we lost him. Okay, any other questions? Mr. Allman.
What are the plans for the Eye Institute?
The Eye Institute is going to be demolished.
Where do those services go?
The services have already been relocated. So the services that were in the eye complex, like the eye clinic, for instance, is on the 3rd and 4th floor of the Vanderbilt Center. So everything that was already in eye has been relocated. When we build the new building, a lot of the eye services will come back into the new building.
We'll finish it and we'll bring it back next month.
And in the personal experience there, There's communication from a practitioner.
But I thought that was.
She was moving her practice to 64th Street, so
And he gave us a pretty good
a
idea.
little bit concerned about loss of
Kind of got some
services.
discussion.
Yeah, I think there was a combination of services there. Some of them were NYP and Columbia doctors, and some of them were, there's a term of art that's used for them, like affiliated doctors, but they weren't part of the Columbia doctors practice. So some of those positions may have moved to other locations.
So you're saying a significant part of the Eye Institute services will come into the.
Right, the eye
building.
Correct. Correct. So the top portion of the building, there's gonna be 5 floors treating cancers of different types. And the first floor in that upper tranche of the building is gonna be ophthalmology.
Yeah, and that's why I guess at the moment they're referring to it as the Cancer Plus building.
Correct. I received my eye care in that building as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
I received my eye care in that building as well, in the eye complex.
All right, very good.
All right,
All right,
thank
so we're undoubtedly going to have some more questions after we read the EAS. I admit I didn't do all my homework. We may be in touch with you again.
Can you come, you mean for next month?
But well, I think, well, we are, as, let me just explain, we are waiting for, as we found out last night, we're waiting for the Department of City Planning to certify the application, at which point they will then be giving the community board 45 days to comment on it. The resolution most likely will be coming out of the Land Use Committee with input from this committee. So I anticipate that we'll have a more detailed discussion at our next meeting as to whatever input we want to provide for that resolution. And at that point, we might want you to come back, maybe, I don't know, but we'll see what questions
No,
we
I think
develop.
we do want him to come back.
Okay, so we do want you to come back.
So Steve, once you get get a chance to review it.
Yes, okay.
Let us know what those questions are.
No, very good. Okay.
Those questions are myself and Monica.
Okay.
And, we'll turn it there with, the other friends.
All right, but okay, but Joe is willing to come back. Okay, all right. He apparently
We're nice people,
no, well, he apparently has a bit of a masochistic freak. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next up on the agenda, if she's still here. Oh, my God, she is still here. Sandra Harris, the Associate Vice President for Government and Community Affairs at the Columbia University Irving Medical Center. Ms. Harris, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do, and I'll be very, very brief after that excellent presentation on our Cancer Plus building. So it's great. So I just want to share some of the updates on our SPREP program deadlines. We send out some updates through the community board's mailing list. We're recruiting our students for this summer's SPREP programs, our science enrichment program, and really encouraging everyone, please, at the community board to spread the word. We are reaching out to local high schools and local community-based organizations, but really, as always, entrusting the board to disseminate the flyers and information to recruit as many students as possible. Over the summer, as many of you know, we host a series of health sciences career path programs for 7th and 8th graders. Some are virtual, some are in person. So we want to make sure that those are posted on your website. And we have put together a list of all of them to send. You have received some of them, but I also want some of them posted on your website as well. So we'll be working on that. One of the things that I also do want to bring to your attention, I know a few months ago, we had a presentation from our All of Us team, and I have some sad news on that front. And that is that we, Columbia, we're not funded for the next cycle of the All of Us program. Our understanding is that Mount Sinai has received that grant. However, we're still awaiting information from NIH as to how the outreach and engagement and connection with all of the Washington Heights and Inwood residents that have applied for the program in terms of how that follow-up will go. So we're still kind of in a gag order because we can't tell, we can't officially inform our residents where they can go to follow up until we hear from NIH. So that's a little bit of sad news there, because I just wanted to make sure, and I know we have Lakeisha coming to the committee, and we are going to bring the team back, because we did have a significant number of Washington Heights and Inwood residents that signed up for the program. And as you recall, we were at the stage of looking at genetic counseling and matching our community residents for that. So that whole transition of those services, we hope and we anticipate that it will take place through Mount Sinai. But again, we don't have details on that as of yet. And I'll come back to the board with those details.
So Sandra, what happens to all of the information that you gathered from so many different people about their
Remember, it's a national program, so all that information continues. They're part of that registry. They'll continue to get information. We have been making, the argument that folks want to come to their immediate community, but nonetheless, with the new funders, there will be efforts through NIH to create either community health workers and other folks to connect them to those services. So all the services will continue under the program for all the participants that have registered.
They just have to go to a different location.
Yes. And as of today, we don't have official approval from NIH to indicate where those locations will be. But we're working with them on communication and how this will be rolled out with the new awardee.
But isn't this going to cause a lot of not just confusion, but people are currently being served, let's say here at the medical center, and now they're going to be referred for services maybe to Mount Sinai instead?
Yeah, Steve, that was our argument with NIH.
That doesn't seem at all work. Doesn't seem at all workable.
We're having those conversations, and we're waiting to hear from them, and we'll come back in terms of reaching out and connecting. One of the things that we have been able to do, as you know, as part of the program, we have over 100 community partners that we've been working with. So we have been able to retain those partners because we want to make sure that once NIH gives us directions on how to reach out to those participants and using our community partners to facilitate that transition. Yeah, it's
that's this sounds like a real mess.
It does, but I think NIH knows all of our individual names by now, because we're all calling and trying to get some clarity on how we move forward, especially reaching our residents. But we've managed to bring in our community partners, hoping that once we get directions from them, we can use them also to better inform those participants.
Sandra, do you know why it was granted to another institution, the funds?
Well, NIH is looking a lot of cost savings. So I think that when they look at the refunding structure, they look at, the entity that can present, the most streamlined budget. That's what we're anticipating. We are hoping that that this new grantee will keep some of our partners, including Harlem Hospitals and others. But again, I'm not even allowed to say that we're pushing to have these other partners also as part of that, because it's part of the conversations with NIH at this moment.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Two quick questions, Sandra, for the sake of my
Sure.
minutes here. Can you say who the grant was from again?
This is
Okay.
National Institute of Health.
Okay, thank you. And then secondly, can you just remind me the name of the program?
It's the All of Us program.
Thank you.
So
Alright.
I think that now in the announcement of buildings and Wayne had, I believe he left the meeting already. But we are, on May 30th, we are, hosting our groundbreaking for our new, research building. Our new, research building over on Audubon Avenue, right next to our School of Nursing. We presented recently to our land use committee and are hoping, I was hoping to come to you before our groundbreaking. So we're trying to see if we can get a presentation next month to just showcase our new research building over on Audubon Avenue.
And this is a biomedical research building?
This is our new, yes, biomedical research building.
And that's on Audubon and what?
It's on Audubon and 168th Street.
On what?
167 maybe? Is it?
Well, it's between it's right next, 167th and Audubon, between 160 and 167.
Yeah, it's behind the nursing school, no?
Correct.
So this is, so the, how does it dip?
No, that's 166. Sorry, I can't picture where that is.
It is there's a parking lot now.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes. What was
So-
that, Steve?
So the, how does it differ from the Mary Woodward Lasker building, which was also created for biomedical research? Is this research that's just being done, it's not being done by like entrepreneurs, or it's just being done by people within the institution? Is that the idea?
Right. It's research being done through our faculty, through within the institution. So this is not biomedical. So this is really creating more research space for our various researchers to collaborate. One of the things this will be actually, I think in New York City, the new biomedical building, it's an emissions-free building in New York City, in surpassing local law 97. I know this is following our Cancer Plus building, but I can tell you that it's an emission-free building, and we were very excited when we heard the news that this building would really set and advance Columbia's emissions-free goal in 2030 to be an emissions-free campus. So I don't want to share a lot because I want to have the team really present to you all. We're very excited, and it's basically almost 100% electrical building. So pretty interesting and exciting and challenging things to come, right? Because it's really going to set the tone for buildings, at least built by Columbia, to be built at this level.
When you will be able to share more information about the building?
I will be able to share more information about the building in our next community health committee meeting next month. So I will bring the team in. But just to say that this building surpasses local law 97.
All right, probably a passive house building.
Oh, God.
No, but I'm sorry, you, I think people misunderstand.
I understand. I heard your,
Yeah, and passive house, I mean, I do remember the first time I heard about that. There was a presentation by passive house people, looked like a bunch of geekies people. And they just came with a hand dryer, and it said the cost of running this hand dryer for whatever number of time, this is how we're going to run this house for heat and cooling for the month.
Right. So we'll share a lot that we presented to the land use committee, but this new building will outperform emissions limits set by New York City's local law.
Wonderful.
All right. So So we should put you on the agenda for this presentation for next month.
Great.
Okay, all right, very good.
Quick question, is the new cancer building, is it just a NYP endeavor, or is that a Columbia as well?
It's NYP,
Not Columbia.
Right.
not Columbia, yeah.
Okay.
But this biomedical research is Columbia.
But Columbia doctors will be working within the Cancer Plus building.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
I have a question not related to that, Sandra.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, in terms of the vacant lot on 218 and Broadway, I know Dave Tom asked about it last time.
Yes, I said.
My understanding is that in order to get the grant from the city or something, you have to break ground. So the way you do it, you break the ground, but then leave it fenced until you figure out what you want to do with that. Do you want to
Yeah, so
elaborate
the
on
building on 218, what happened, the Department of Building did an assessment and found that the structure was not safe. So we have no building plans for that site, but it had to meet demolished as per Department of Building codes.
So 1 second, is this
This is another site on 218.
so this is on the east side of Broadway?
Right.
Yes.
And you had a building on that side?
It was there was a car wash, there was some lots, some structures on that
Annex,
side.
yeah.
And
So
was right, it's right next to the school yard a lot there.
So you own that?
Yes.
Is that new? Did you just buy it?
Recently.
It was recently, yes.
Oh, all right.
But there are no development plans, but we did have to work with the schools and work with the surrounding buildings because the structure was not safe and it needed to come down.
Well, whatever it was, the car wash or whatever, that was unsafe.
It was a parking.
No, the car wash is still there.
Oh, it was a parking lot?
It was parking lot,
Oh, okay.
and next to it, and then right in the corner, there was mechanic shop many gazillion years ago.
Okay, so that structure was unsafe.
Right.
So you bought this property, but you don't know what you're gonna do with it?
I mean, they do that.
Don't have any development plans as of yet, no.
It's not new.
That sounds a lot of, okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait a minute. I mean, I was posted about that because it's really eyesore that it just fenced.
Yeah.
So it will be nice to know what's the plans.
I don't.
I will bring that to the folks at athletics. I mean, I was suggesting something for that, not just fans, but I'll bring it back to the team. Thank you. I'll say
Is this?
It is an eyesore. I see. And I try to work on the lighting, but it's still an eyesore.
Is this meant to be an annex for the Campbell Sports Center?
Maybe parking lot?
There is no plans, Steve, and as you know, with any development, as you mentioned, we would have to go through donors and do fundraising. As of today, as far as I know, we have no plans for that site yet.
What's the address? Broadway and 218.
Yeah, it's this would be the northeast corner of Broadway and 218.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Sandra, anything else for us? Any other mysterious property purchases that you want to tell us about?
No. So I just wanted to share really quick around some changes with our Office of Government and Community Affairs and my new role in the university, and then just highlight some programs. So we have established a new office now called the Office of Academic and Community Partnerships. And I have now been appointed as the Vice President for Community Affairs and Partnership Engagement. So what we have done is sort of kind of separated a little bit of the government relations aspect of the office that was under Ross's leadership, and really focus more on our community health and research agenda. So through this new office, We'll continue to do a lot of the community affairs. I will continue to be the representative to the board and in working with our various community partners. But we're really looking at how do we build more inclusive community partners around improving community health indicators throughout our community. So in this new office, and we'll be coming to the committee with the new faculty that I will now be working with. Some of them, Dr. Lantigua and Dr. G. William, who's now been appointed as the Dean for Community Health. And we'll be coming to the committee just to talk about some of the work that we've started to do already with community organization in terms of increasing our community research, clinical trials, which is something that this committee has been talking about, doing more of that education and embedding those services within our community-based provider organization. So lots of good things to work on, and I'm very excited about this new role because it really allows us an opportunity to get the community focused on some of the research that we're working on and what are the things that we're learning about that is important for community to be at the table. Especially, as per COVID, we quickly realized that our communities were not represented in our clinical trials. And we're definitely looking to this office to help us improve that and also help us improve our community physicians' involvement in our overall community health and so on. So looking forward to our presentation to the committee as well.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to getting the presentation, and you're now a full vice president?
Yeah, I was kidding. I'm now leading, but I was wondering, when do I stop working? I thought the vice president just talked. They don't do anything, but not in my case.
All right. Well, it sounds like a promotion. So congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. I'm really very excited. I'm very, very excited that we're working this closely with our community partners. And I have my eyes, Ozzy, focused on sustainability. Is how do we sustain these efforts and how do we really move the needle on some of these health indicators in our communities.
We can talk offline about what Columbus can do. Definitely.
Okay. All right. That's good. All right. So we're looking forward to yet another presentation about this about community.
Ozzy is gonna love this one.
And what's the name of the new vice president for community health?
G. Day Williams.
G. Day?
Yes.
How do you spell that?
Well, it's all a G Day, so we call him G Day, and you know him as the hip hop doctor. He has come to our committee.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I'll take you at your word. Okay.
Yes.
The hip hop doctor. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Sandra.
Okay.
Next up, we're going to hear more about New York Presbyterian Hospital from Julio Batista, the Community Affairs Liaison.
Right. So,
but before you speak, I forgot to ask Joe for a copy of the PowerPoint.
okay.
So could you arrange for me?
Yeah, I think it's also on the, it's also on the tape. It's been recorded.
Yeah.
It's also there.
Yeah, but
But I'll ask Joe.
yeah, send it to me directly.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I know it's pretty late.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take a lot of your time, just we put a couple of things. One is the numbers of the COVID numbers, great numbers. Trends continue to go down. There are 90 cases throughout New York Presbyterian. Throughout, well,
90 or 19?
90.
90.
Yeah, 90. So at Columbia, which is really the most thing where we have patients, there are 20 cases there. There are 3 inpatients at Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital and 2 patients at the Allen Hospital. So that makes a total of 25 that are inpatients here at Columbia.
And none are in the ICU. Or last month you had several.
No,
you had a few.
There's 2 in the ICU.
Now?
Yeah, at
Newsgate.
at Mill State. So the other is, we have a number of webinars taking place around nutrition, mental health. I shared those with you, Steve. So you should have an email. You can share that with other community members. That'd be great. And we also sent it to Ebenezer. So again, I'm asking this committee to, support and asking that please share those through the community boards list.
Okay.
So those are going to be taking place later this month, and so please share that.
And isn't there something coming up at PS4?
That's one of those.
Oh, okay.
Right on May 4th.
Okay.
That's around mental health.
Right.
So, and then finally, I just I know discussion on SCDs. And you mentioned, probably mentioned increase. I mean, if you're interested in learning more or hearing more about that, we do have at 21 Audubon. We have a young men's clinic. It's been there for many years. And we'll be happy to have one of them, one of the commissioners there come and make a report if this committee wants.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's really, just want to mention that.
Question. Can we speak about the last month when we mentioned that the, spay neuter for pets? You mentioned that you may be able to help with like space or something? Space for one day clinic?
I don't know about space. I don't think we have space.
If you can host, if Columbia can host like space, give us like a space for a few hours.
He's not coming.
Oh.
The lady in pink is Columbia. We
work
very closely.
But who you
for the neutering when they come in?
One day for not for neutering.
Yeah.
For vaccination wellness clinics.
So let me ask you, in terms of the further position, do they have an actual van or that they use when they provide those services? Because we would be happy to sponsor something along those lines.
Okay, so the Toby has a van.
Who does?
Toby project.
So we'll be more than happy to have the discussion around how do we,
But the van is only spay neuter. I was looking for space for wellness vaccination clinics, like maybe the hybrid facility will be good. Or something. We need an actual facility because people coming in, there's stations.
So it could be something like an outdoor. Can it be like an outdoor space covered with tents?
I don't think so.
No,
they need access for running water and restroom. Yeah, but we can talk about, see what's available. Maybe it's a one day kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's not even a whole day, but regardless, it's like 8 to 2 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about it and discuss possibilities.
Okay.
All right, very good. Any other questions for Julio? None. Okay. Diane, you're still hung in there with us. Thank you so much. Diane Ashley, Director of Marketing and Communications for MJHS, which includes the Isabella Geriatric Center. Well, what do you have for us, Diane?
I have good news. No residents with COVID, so consistent with the downturn in COVID.
Very good.
No hospitalizations since our last meeting. And consistent with the none report, no cases of flu since our last meeting last month.
So nobody is getting sick at Isabella Geriatric Center. Is that what you're telling us?
We have people who are getting older who have natural aging processes, but specifically about COVID and flu, we have no cases.
Okay.
And pleased to report that.
But there might be somebody with the sniffles. Is that correct?
There could be somebody with the sniffles. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So maybe somebody at least has a cold. Okay. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Anything else happening at Isabella that you'd like to bring to our attention?
Nothing to report at this time.
All right. Any questions for Diane? None. All right. Thank you so much, Diane.
You're welcome.
And really thank you for sticking it out with us and waiting your turn to give the report. Under old business, the latest street and sidewalk cleanliness ratings have not been published on the city website. In terms of recycling, we do have a slight update. I believe last month I gave you the numbers for November of 2023. We now have the numbers for December, showing that in the Board 12 area, we were able to divert 16.5% from the waste stream. And that's a slight increase from the previous year when we did 16.3. But we trail behind, as I mention all the time, most of the other boards in Manhattan. We are ahead of boards, what is this, 3, 10, and 11, but we're behind all of the others. Is there any, and I also don't have the DEP monthly report. I'll try to get it and forward it to the committee members. Is there any other old business?
No, I'd like to make a correction.
Mr. Batista?
Correction.
Correct.
There are 3 patients on the ICU diagnostic.
3 of the 20
Yes,
that are in Milstein are in the ICU.
correct.
All right. Thank you for your correction. Any other old business? Oh, no. What is your old business? Nothing new to report on that either. Okay.
Do you remember what it is?
Well, are we talking about
Yeah.
clothing?
That one,
Clothing.
textile.
Textiles. Yes. No.
Okay, is there any agency we need to invite to our next meeting to have a serious conversation about that? Why is the Bronx, small boroughs having textile recycling for at least 2 years now? Every Sunday,
Well,
9 to 2.
well, tell me again, in the Bronx, where is it?
It's 45 Independence Avenue in the Bronx. It's in Riverdale.
And is this part of the Green Market?
It is part of the market.
Yeah.
How many
So-
presentations do we have already for next month scheduled?
2.
Do you want?
I don't know if it has to be a presentation, but I think we
Well-
have to start inviting people to talk to us seriously about that because
Yeah.
it's non-existence in our district and I think it's absurd. Like, come on, you can't keep doing the COVID, hey, it's after COVID, it's 4 years. We need to,
Well, I don't think it's the fault of the Green Market. Well, let me find out what the deal is. I'll call her again.
I do have an old business. Is that an old business? I
What is-
don't know. Let me think about it, and you stop me if it's not old business. The composting.
Old business.
Okay, so the composting, because of funding, the New York City cut funding, the compost system in the Green Market is going away in May 20. And I think it's disgraceful that it is. And I'm asking if any other organization, entity, you name it, can take over composting.
Yeah, last month you reported to us that composting had been reduced at the
Correct.
Green Market.
Correct.
Now you're being told it's gonna be eliminated.
Yes, they just
really?
told me on Saturday, and I was like, what? Yes, it's
Uh.
gonna be eliminated on May 20th, and they're not sure when it's coming back.
Is
So
that just here or is that like in a lot of locations?
I don't know. It's something to find out. I don't know if it's just here, I will be really mad.
I see, are they citing this? Is this a budget issue? We have our
Yeah.
market coming up. I'll touch bases with Margaret, but is this a funding issue or what's the reason?
Yeah, it's the funding issue that the city is cutting funds from everywhere.
Yeah, the city is cutting the funds for the community groups that ran composting programs. So,
Grow NYC, maybe they should come next month and tell us what we could do. I don't know.
I don't know if this was something that were they running it directly? I don't
Grow
think so.
NYC?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do run composting.
Do they do composting over at Haven Plaza at 168th Street?
Yeah.
Could you?
So that's what I'm saying. We're having conversations because our market is opening up on June 1st. So I'll ask and see what the status of compassing is also.
All right, let me know what they tell you.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Some of the people in the district can go there.
Right.
That will be great.
well, let's find out.
Okay, so can we invite Grow NYC next month?
Well, I already have a couple of things.
Okay, I mean, I'm putting it out there. It's just that we have to, we really have to address that.
Well, I'd say this is also, this is also something that's being debated as part of the city budget negotiations between the council and the mayor. And we may find out, when the new budget is adopted in June that things may have turned around. So, because I'm pretty sure this is on the council's budget list.
But isn't it better to produce some sort of a resolution next month before the budget is resolved? And maybe this program will be out of the budget? So we need to let them know that we want this project in.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, so maybe that's what we should do next month. All right, let's talk about that. Okay.
So it's one of the presentations are you including the young men's clinic of the two?
For next month?
Yeah.
No.
No, okay, all right, just want to be clear.
You
just let me know when.
Will they still be young in another couple of months?
Probably.
A little bit older, but they still be.
Okay, fine. All right, as long as they remain young. Next month, we're gonna get really a presentation from young men and women from the Wheel School. From their, they have a student group
they presented here before.
Yeah, years ago, but I'm sure these are new students. And on their green card cleanup program, and they call themselves the Stew Crew. Stew, I think, is short for stewards. So I'm looking forward to that presentation.
Yeah, okay.
And I think we just agreed that the other presentation will be on the new biomedical research building.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Okay, so is there any new business?
Before we go to a new business.
Yes.
Or maybe after, I don't know. We actually didn't vote on a resolution about the services for pet owners. The ACC, is there a resolution?
I thought you were gonna write some.
I did start writing it, but I can.
We'll finish writing it and then we'll do it next month.
Oh, we will vote on this next month.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
no
have
problem.
let's have something in writing.
Okay, we'll have something in writing.
Okay, very good.
Guys circulate it before.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, right.
Yes, of course,
Okay.
of course.
Okay, is there any new business?
I don't know, just invite some, do we want to invite, maybe not the next month, do we want to invite, what's the name of the, somebody gave a presentation last month about local law 90, no, I was online, maybe it was 2 months ago, about local law 9 from, not the accelerator. She came from another organization. She said we should invite the New York City Accelerator.
Oh, God, what was that?
It was about local law 97 and all. It was about local law 97. I forgot her name. We spoke about.
Steve's friend. It was your.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it was, yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. It was Kit Kennedy from NRDC spoke about it.
Oh, correct.
yes.
NRDC. Now I remember.
Yeah. But
Okay.
she was recommending that we, I think that we
The
invite
New York
somebody.
Accelerator.
The accelerator.
Right.
Right.
I have somebody from New York Accelerator.
You do?
Yes. The question is, when should we look at inviting them for next month, or it's too busy?
No,
or the month after that?
Well, I think,
June.
I think it would have to be June.
All right. And the topic of discussion will be local law 97 and implementation for residential buildings?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we may
Maybe
want,
for hospitals as well?
well, we can always ask that question, but we may want to do that jointly with the Housing and Human Services Committee.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. All right, very good.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Regarding local law 97, did the developers from the 207 properties, did they mention anything regarding local law 97? All the developments going on?
I don't remember.
So one of the things that You talk about the humongous buildings.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
University
yeah,
Heights.
yeah. Do you have any
They can
information?
still
data?
run on, they can still implement, natural gas if they want to for heating. I think the cutoff for natural gas is 2026, if I'm not mistaken. So they can still implement that technology, but it's not gonna carry them beyond 2030. By 2030, this is obsolete. So, I don't remember what they said they run their,
Well, first of all, I don't know, I mean, you got three large projects there. I don't recall, I only recall one of them ever actually coming before us.
oh, the other.
Oh, no, no,
one is
no.
right.
No, 1 second. Maybe the one on the Pathmark site also came to us.
They did.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
that
yeah.
presentation.
Yeah, they did come to us,
Yes.
but I don't remember, because it was basic, I don't
The other
remember.
two did not.
I don't remember asking the question. Now, the one on the north side, the MAD project, at some point also came to the board. But I think it was before local law 97 was ever passed.
Well, that was-
I don't think we ever asked that question.
We probably did, because local law 97,
But
that's 2019. Did they come to us? Well,
the MAD project goes way back.
2019, local law 97 is 2019.
And when was the inward rezoning?
Before that.
Yeah, okay, so the MAD project came to us about the time, I think, of the inward rezoning. The Pathmark project was more recent, but I don't think we ever asked that question.
But the rezoning has nothing to do with local law 97.
I know that, no, I'm just, in my head, I'm trying to remember when we had the
they
MAD
did not
project
come
come
to
to the
us.
community board.
Yeah.
But, because I remember it being, I think, around the time of the inward rezoning. Okay, Elvin, we can't answer your question. But it's not because we wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
And it's not because if we had the information, we wouldn't be willing to publish it, but we're just not, we just don't have the answer.
No, but I was just curious about, since that seems to be like the largest concentration of
Yes. Yeah.
new housing.
Yes,
How
yeah.
that might impact the health and the environment of our community, because it's,
Yeah.
I believe like 3,000 units. Something like that.
Well,
No,
Those are some numbers that I heard of.
3,000 people, maybe
Yeah,
5,000
3,000,
people.
yeah, 3,000,
Relax.
but that's a lot.
but it's a lot of units. It's-
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a-
So I was curious to see like if there's
and-
anything that we should be concerned about that we can do to mitigate any health or environmental.
Well, I think it's a good point you raised, and we should look
Do we know
into
who the
this.
developers are?
We should look into it. What's that?
Do we know who the developers are?
We could easily find out. We certainly, we know at least two of them, I believe,
Right.
but well, I don't think we ever had contact with the one,
The one that is now started to build on the gas station,
yes.
never came to
No,
us.
never came to
They
us,
were,
no,
as of
no.
right.
I don't believe so, yeah. But we should be able to find out. It's gonna take a little bit of research. Yeah. Okay, so that, I think, constitutes new business. That's new business. Any other new business? None. Okay, good. No, it's okay to have new business. Okay, any announcements? No announcements. Okay, the next meeting, as I mentioned, is, well, it's May 2nd, and we're gonna have a presentation from the Stu crew, from Wheels. And according to, Ms. Harris, we're also gonna have a presentation on the biomedical research building. So, hearing no objections, at 9:43 PM, I declare this meeting to be adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.